Welcome to Liftalk. This is episode number 21, and this is also number 27 of The Hunt. And I'm joined by Aiden Potts and Matt Bartholomew. And today we're doing a APA Nationals preview show. The OMC boys have been reunited, and funnily enough, this is actually the first time that all three of us have been on the same podcast, which is actually pretty crazy.
It's well overdue.
I've had you, Matt. I've had you, Potsy. You've had each other. You haven't had me on, Potsy,
but I want the one that comes.
But that's okay.
You didn't realize.
But now here we are. We're all together.
He caught the train here. Right? The dedication.
I couldn't even get him a drink.
No.
He's drinking flat monster that's been in the fridge for
Just
a
because
week.
you don't like the green from your tasting test 2 weeks ago, it's actually
the whole can's there.
It's
so.
going down a treat.
Got a nice little oat bar. Wash down that oat bar with a nice little green monster.
Hospitality at its finest here at City Strength.
There we go. So yeah, we're doing a APA Nationals preview. Matty, how many lifters do we have in total at the comp?
Mid 140s. I think it's 145 roughly. We had a few pull out here and there and things like that. So yeah, roughly mid 40s.
It's pretty great from a federation that only started a couple months ago. Obviously, this is our first big competition, so it's pretty awesome the number of people we've had interested in doing it, and also the amount of depth of talent that we've got in this competition, which obviously we'll go into. How should we start? Should we start with the 47s, or should we do a bit of a ramble about nationals first?
Yeah, I reckon we can talk shop about nationals and some of the things we're looking forward to, even just from a Fed perspective. I know one thing I'm looking forward to is just some of the quality elements. The live stream stuff. There was a local comp, the Perth local comp that ran where they did a little bit of testing of the live stream, and I thought it was fantastic. It's a starting point, and that's the kind of thing that I think that we really need to see at national level events and local level events, because the viewer at home, be that people who are friends or family of the lifters or those who want to come into the sport, I think that's one of the easiest ways that you can give people access to enjoying the event and making it of high quality. So I think that's going to be really, really cool.
Potsy, what are you looking forward to?
Well, I'm on the Nationals committee, so I know all the ins and outs of what's going on, which is exciting because finally we get to run a comp the way that we want the lifters to experience it. So first and foremost, the venue is fantastic compared to any other prior Nationals venue. So it's at Walls End Diggers upstairs in the auditorium. It has a overhead standing PA system with music, which would be fantastic, a first at a national event. There's a large amount of seating, up to 140 people can sit as spectators, which is really good. There's a massive warm-up room that's separate and just in the next room to where the platform is. Plus also, as Maddie said, the live stream quality will be fantastic. 3 different camera angles, live stream commentators, all dialed in with really high-speed internet, so there'll be no lagging or interruptions. And thankfully, we've had a number of sponsors. Hopefully, yeah. And thankfully, we've had a number of sponsors to support the event, and that goes right along from financials to equipment usage, being able to facilitate volunteers, materials, things like that. So it's been really, really good.
And I think that if
so basically you're looking forward to everything then.
Everything is going to be
There's one thing
really cool. We're really keen. I think if you look at all of that as well, it has to be said that there are so many things that have gone into, the creation of APA and the sort of foundational elements that take away from the ability to organize a massive event so soon. And so to have all of those things that Potts just mentioned, relatively well in order, hopefully, fairly unprecedented for a national event in Australia, is very promising for the future, and I think very exciting for the lifters. And, I think it's going to be great also to sort of run the event. There will be bumps, and then to, take feedback and improve for next year. But that's the goal, is to kind of, I think being a lifter and being a part of a federation, which is what APA hopes to be, that actually genuinely gets better in tangible ways each year is something that we really want to see. So this is just a starting point, which is exciting in of itself. So,
And I think for me, the thing I'm most looking forward to is actually just having an event where there's actually just a positive and optimistic ambiance around the community.
Yeah.
The last few have been, there's always been a little bit of hostility. There's been a bit of awkwardness in the air. It's been a bit.
You're right.
It's kind of felt like you're walking on eggshells around.
It's been like a disconnect,
people.
I think.
And it's felt like there's a disconnect is a great way to put it. The people up the top and the people who are actually down on the ground, the foot soldiers, there was this sort of fracturing of relationships and almost like I said,
stepping on
awkwardness.
glass.
Yeah.
Exactly. And, without sort of focusing that too much, I think that, definitely having a vibe that is supportive and positive. And, you know, I think the energy is going to be really special. I'm really looking forward to it because I think that for a lot of people, what has been happening in the scene has been a long time coming. And so I think there's been a lot of anticipation and there's naturally a lot of excitement. I think with that, people are going to get around it real hard. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
And we were all in PA back when, you know, it was kind of at its peak, 2017, 2018, those kind of areas. And it was like that.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
everyone
sure.
felt like they were together and there was camaraderie and there was like a sense of like community from the moment you walked in the door that, you know, it'd just be like a really positive environment.
I think the thing to stress is that it's not as if that hasn't existed since then. It's just that maybe to that extent, to that level, you know, across all levels, because there's still a ton of camaraderie that happens in bits and bobs. You know, like it's at the end of the day, like sport in Australia is something that everyone can get around. But I think that to see it get back to that level and exceed that is going to be really exciting.
And I think, like you said it before, Maddie, but this is almost just a stepping stone to what's to come.
Yeah.
And like we're going to go through the depth of some of the classes and some of the talent that we have in Australia. And this is only just a small portion of what
Totally.
we've got.
Yeah, spot on. Yeah,
if we
100%.
can, if we can kind of use this event and events like this as an advertisement for what the federation is and can be, the talent, the depth, it's only going to grow, which is only going to push the top level of competition up. And then, you know, 4 or 5 years, we're going to have a really, really good world's team.
Yep.
A world's team that we can be proud of to say, like, this is the Australian powerlifting team.
Perhaps our
Totally.
strongest world's team.
Yeah.
Perhaps even.
Bloody,
Perhaps
hope,
even.
bloody hope so.
Bloody hope
Potsy.
so.
Perhaps even our strongest.
Thanks for the input there, Aiden.
Yeah.
No, you're right.
Yeah,
You're
100%. And I think as well, like, not to take away from the fact that the world's team that comes out of this nationals is going to be brilliant.
Yes,
you know, but
absolutely.
it's looking forward to the fact that we're on the up, we're moving, and we want to see Australia continue to get more and more presence at Worlds, in the top 10, in the podium, and so on.
Yeah, and the more battles that there are at nationals, you know, iron sharpens iron. The person who comes out on top actually like grows from that.
Yeah.
And then when they go to Worlds, they're like almost in a better position.
I think there are a lot of examples of that, and we'll talk through these in each weight class, where you might have someone who has been up the top of a weight class for a period of time, and then you have all these new contenders come in. There's battles that are on their way, and that person who was at the top actually improves a whole lot because they feel that pressure. Like you said, that iron sharpens iron concept, not only from the mentality of being kind of like battle ready when you go to Worlds, but also just absolute strength, just actually getting stronger and training more effectively to be able to face that battle.
Yeah, and we've seen that, you know, Cameron McKenzie's a really good example of not having any competition. Years ago, he was miles ahead of the next 120, and he would just do nationals and sandbag and then pull his last tether to win best lifter because he was that far ahead of everyone else. And he never really like got to where his true potential was because he
Totally.
never had anyone nipping at his heels.
That's a really good example.
And
yeah.
I think like, you know, there are some lifters who have been at the top for a while who are now seeing those people come and get them.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
going to push them up to the next level.
Absolutely.
And we're going to see people like really hit their potential, which is exciting.
Yeah. I think you already mentioned this before we jumped on and started recording, but you know, we're going to be covering as many lifters as we can in this chat. We're not actively excluding anyone. We might accidentally miss someone. We don't mean to. We've tried to reach out to lifters and get some insights as best we can. So, you know, we apologize in advance if we do happen to miss anybody, but we're going to try not to.
Yeah, so like Matty said, we have, you know, in the 140s lifters. If we do a breakdown on every single lifter, we're going to be here for 10 hours. I got to go home and look after my kids, so we can't stay for that long. So we're really going to go into, you know, essentially the lifters who we believe have a chance at the podium. And if anyone we don't mention does get on the podium, feel free to tag us and be like, you know,
Roast us.
fuck you, I made the podium and you didn't mention me. I'll happily cop the heat.
Love to see it. Yeah. Also, like,
Yeah.
if you come from 7th seed to podium, good
we,
on you.
yeah, we absolutely want everyone to achieve whatever their goals are. And yeah.
Great.
Let's get stuck into, so we're going to do female weight class, male weight class, female weight class, male
Just
weight
lightest
class.
to heaviest.
We'll go lightest to heaviest.
Yeah.
So
kick off with the
lightest
47
female weight
women's.
class, so 47 kilo women. We have 2 lifters. We've got Vicky Kay and we've got Ursula. This is one of those ones we probably don't have to spend a lot of time on.
Yep.
Vicky is currently the best female lifter in Australia on whatever coefficient you want to use. She's unbelievable. Best lifts of 142.5, 90.5, and 168 as a 47. Best total in a competition of 400. Truly incredible. She's my pick to win best overall lifter for the females.
Yeah,
And I think it won't even be particularly close.
for sure. And she looks really good in her training. I'm lucky enough to be one of her close friends on her IG. I don't know how I got there, but I'm there.
I'm in there too. So
ya?
I think I've spoken to her twice.
Damn, damn. Whoa.
Oh no, Maddie B.
She knew that
It's
we were
cool.
doing a
No,
podcast,
no
and
stress.
she's like, "I need Alex to see these videos."
That's so funny.
I don't trust. I don't even care.
No, well, from what she's been posting, she looks really good. The interesting thing is that she obviously lifts in competition with sumo, but she does conventional on her secondary day, which is an interesting tactic. But it seems to work because she looks really good. I'm not gonna mention any of her numbers because I think she does the whole like close posting thing to keep things a little bit private.
Yep.
But at Worlds 2023, obviously her best performance going 7 for 9, hitting 400 on the nose. And she actually hit her highest GL points there at 111.23. So
That's
it'd
pretty
be
cool.
good to see her, dip her toes into hopefully like 410, 420.
Yeah, and 400 with a couple missed lifts, and then an extra sort of 8 months to train for this competition. If we can see 410, 415,
Yep.
This could potentially be our first open podium at a World Championships.
Yep.
Which is something that we've been wanting for a long time. Like New Zealand has all these lifters who are up and coming, winning worlds and getting on the podium at worlds, and we haven't really had that yet. And I think Vicky's probably our most likely first podium at worlds.
For sure. Yeah, she's been battling some like elbow depth issues since the rule came out, but she looks strong in her bench and finally back to her top strength. So we'll see how she goes. And then second nominated is Ursula Piera. So this will be her third ever competition and happens to be Open Nationals. So that's a massive feat for her. She actually dabbles a fair bit in CrossFit and Olympic weightlifting. So it's good to see an athlete performing at the highest level of tested Australian powerlifting. In her recent training, she did a 3-time bodyweight deadlift, which is a big pull at that bodyweight and level of experience. So it'd be good to see her performance at 305 kilos, which she did at Open Women's States in October last year.
Awesome. Do we need to do anything more on that class, Maddie, or happy to move on?
No, I don't think so. Just one note. Did Liz podium at Worlds?
I believe she came fourth.
Belarus? Second.
Was that Masters?
2. Yeah, it might have been. Anyways, I didn't want to miss a stat there if there was an error. That's all.
All right, moving on to the 59 kilo men's class.
Looks open.
We have 4 lifters in this class, and these ones are actually all quite spread out in terms of their best totals. So I think this will be one of those competitions where each lifter is almost fending for themselves, just trying to achieve their own best total, not really worrying too much about what the others are doing, because there is quite a bit of a gap between the three at the top and then the one who will be in fourth. So the first nominated lifter is Dion with a best total of 580. The second nominated lifter is Jonas with a 550. And the third is Kiyohi. Is that how you say it?
I'd pronounce
Kyohi?
it the same as you, yeah.
Kiyohi with 522.5. So like I said, a bit of a spread between those two. We would have to be seeing one of them either really improve or one of them really struggle to see one of those orders
Or
flip.
will there be a repeat of 2022 Nationals where Dion misses weight?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And
Well, I did manage to get a response from Dion Jonas. Didn't manage to from Kiyohi. And Dion was saying that he's still got a bit of weight to cut to make weight. So that's a potential concern. I mean, hopefully he makes weight. But also commented that his squats are great at the moment, but he's not feeling particularly good across his bench and deadlift. Now, sure, it's a fairly big gap down to second place from the totals we have in front of us here. Moving over to Jonas, he's commented that his training's been going really well until a bit of a right hip injury a couple weeks ago and low back. But he has managed to recover from that. He managed to squat 170 for 3 recently. He also hit a 205 for 8 on the deadlift, which is a PR. So he's coming in strong across his lower body if his hip manages to feel good on the day. So it'd be interesting to see how that plays out. Like you said, if there's a bit of a weaker day from our first nominee and then, like heavy weight cut and then a particularly good day from Jonas, how that might shake up, or whether it stays as separated as it is here,
Yeah. Something that we were talking about earlier, Maddie, is, the importance of making lifts yourself, because at this high level of competition, you actually expect that people are going to miss.
Yeah.
because there's maybe more pressure, the standards are higher, or a number of other factors, maybe just mental, or maybe just whatever the case. People just set their bar too high. So when you are in a situation like this, like playing your own game is the best thing that you can do, because you can't control what anyone else can do, and there's a good likelihood that someone else is going to make a mistake.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that becomes so important when things are much closer. It's less obvious to play your own game in that circumstance. You look at this and you go, play your own game, not much more you can do. But I mean, that's also the reality when it is a lot closer too. In this circumstance, it might be a little bit less likely that there's a major slip up to that degree where a placing changes, but it's not impossible. So, yeah, I mean, that'll be a recommendation across really all the weight classes is like play your game. And obviously there's tactics to that. But making lifts at nationals is a major draw card. For whatever reason, the hit rate at nationals, and we looked at last year's national, the year before nationals technically, where the hit rate in the podium was like somewhere between 6 and 7 from 9. Now, what does that indicate? Why are people missing lifts at nationals? What do we think?
There's probably a couple of outliers in there, like Stephen Day going 3 for 9, bringing the average down.
For sure. For sure.
Take
But
that, Stephen.
If you look even outside of that, like there were so many 7s and there were quite a lot of 6s. And I mean, I guess that when I look at that, when I look at the females, I think to myself, I know there are a lot of reasons why one might miss a bench press, potentially even 2 bench presses. So I think that's probably a major one when you're pushing that top end and potentially securing something like an equal PR and an opener or a second and taking a minimal risk second or third to kind of try and extend that. But outside of those, I think that a lot of lifters and even coaches come into nationals thinking because it's nationals that the lifter is going to be able to do something extraordinary just because it is that event. Or they might have that hope that they're going to be able to do something extraordinary. And you get a lot of people reaching for placings or reaching for achievements because it's the event that it is. I think that happens. And I think that the best lifters, be that the strongest or be that the ones who are more 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, but actually really good lifters in regard to their execution on the day, are able to make a sound plan, stick to the sound plan, and the chips fall where they may. And it's a hard pill to swallow sometimes that the chips will fall where they may, and you can't just like pull a miracle out of your bum. But I think that's an element of it, personally. Do we have any other thoughts on why that might happen?
I actually think a huge thing is the standard and the refereeing.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Particularly on bench press, and particularly with the females, like those longer press calls, they really do juice you like quickly.
Yep.
Harsh depth calls on squat can, like, if you miss your opener on depth, you might take a small jump, or you might reattempt, and then you end up on your second, or you end up halfway between your plan second and your third. So like those kind of things, or like making lifts isn't just like actually having the strength; it's actually hitting the standard as well. So,
and when we say, especially for the females, with the harsher calls, what do you mean by that?
Well, you brought up the females for bench press.
Yep.
That
the top end's a little bit
that. Well, they take that little risk to gain 2.5, and they don't lose anything because that plan second would have been the plan third anyway.
Yep. But also, with a lower absolute number, a small change makes a bigger impact. So, when you have something that is 99% or 100% of someone's ability, and then you have a slight extension on the demands. So, it does carry over to the men's side too. But we notice on bench press on the women's side that it's a little bit more sensitive to changes like that.
Yeah.
So that would be kind of the main point there.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. I think those are all great points. So 59s.
I've got
happy
2
with-
mentions. Honourable mention to Stephen Vo, who won last year. He's not on the list, but he's going to Austin, Texas for Bench Only Worlds, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, cool.
About 150 at 59, which is pretty hectic.
Oh, wow, that's crazy.
So we'll see how that goes. And then
That's more than you, mate.
way more than me.
Whoa.
And then the last person who I want to mention is Dion. Now, he doesn't get much limelight because he did miss out on nationals last year by missing weight. So it's kind of like he's been out of the circle for conversation. But he actually is like incredibly close to the world standard. If we look at Wasker, who won worlds last year, he totaled 625. And granted that Dion only did 580, he's actually like pretty close to 600 if you have a look at his lifts from the States. So I'm looking forward to seeing how Dion goes. If he wins, then I think he could be literally in contention for that 59 podium at Worlds, which would be amazing for men's.
Wow, that's exciting.
Yeah, that's great.
And that's great that you brought that up because I feel like highlighting that kind of thing is so important.
Yeah.
And encouraging, people to keep on pushing and achieving something like that at a national event in our first APA Nats, and then having someone go to Worlds and be pushing for the podium is super significant.
I would happily say he's probably the most underrated lifter in Australia by far.
I hope he's sitting around about 56 kilos at the moment.
Yeah.
Just walks in a tracksuit and makes it.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, you'd hope that some learning has happened. So 59s, happy with that little run through.
Yep.
And good luck to the 59s.
Let's move on to the 52s.
52s.
So we have 10 lifters here, which is a pretty good showing from a small weight class, which is cool. We have the 2 nominated totals at the top separated by 2.5 kilos, and then the 3rd and 4th nominated totals separated by 2.5 kilos
That's
as well.
fun. That's fun.
So this is one of those battles that's really, really fun, where it's almost like 2 one-on-ones within a particular class. So, Potts, you want to go through these women?
Before you do, it's also close enough between the two that if something changes, it completely throws a new sort of situation.
Yeah. So we've got 367.5 as the best total, 365, 352.5, 350. So only 17.5 kilos separating first and fourth. So if one of those 2 women at the top does have a slip up or a 6 for 9 day or a 7 for 9 day, one of those other women in 4th or 3rd could, get into the top 2, which is really cool.
Yep. So I'm pretty invested in this weight class purely because one of my lifters is in it, and that's Ainsley Jones at 3rd, on nominated. So she did 140 with 72.5 and 140 at New South Wales Open Women's. Second place is Jordana Herber, who is one of my employees, which I'm also heavily invested in her prep too. So she did 142.5, 75, 152.5 at Queensland States, and she made the move from 57 to 52. Did see it affect her squat a little bit because we've seen her squat more than that. But at 57, but granted that she's been training around that body weight, we should see a similar sort of outcome on competition day. And then best nominated is Zin with a 675.5. She did 133, which was a Victorian record, 65 and 175.
You say 675?
Huge deadlift.
133, 65 bench.
Yeah.
And then 175 deadlift.
367.5.
Yeah,
Right?
367.5.
Huge deadlift.
So, I obviously am very close with both Ainsley and Jordana. It'd be really good to see them both have a really good day. I know Ainsley this week will be hitting around 370, 372.5 training total. And generally speaking, these lighter women, we're going to probably look at replicating that on competition day. There's not very much we get out of their taper, so to speak.
Yeah, she's made really good progress since States. I noticed that.
Yeah, she was doing dumbbell shoulder press and had a little bit of a shoulder injury where the dumbbell hyperextended her shoulder. So she wasn't able to actually bench much. So since then, she's put on 10 kilos on her bench, which has been really helpful on her total. And then Jay for herself, I know for a fact that her training's been just compounding based on how good her competition was at Queensland States because she hit a total PB at a lighter body weight, which is amazing. So doing the whole Evie Corrigan effect, which is cool. And then Zin obviously backing up after, I guess, on her standards, a disappointing Worlds performance. It was good to see her come back and hit Victorian States with that performance that she's registered with. And it'll be good to see those 3 ladies battle literally for the top, but it's not to talk without Valentina.
Who was just doing bench rows downstairs when we walked in.
4th place at 350. So, Alex, you obviously work and train around her. How's she been going?
Yeah, Val's been dealing with a lot of life stress at the moment. She's just moved house. She's just had a whole bunch of shit happen. But she's actually been training really well despite all that stuff. So I expect her to perform well. She had a 9 for 9 at States and did 350, which I believe was a 10 kilo PB, and looked like she had more. And she's benched, she'll have the opportunity to chip the bench standard record as well, which could give her a little bit of an advantage here. But Jordana will have the chance to do that same thing with the squat, and then Zin will obviously have the chance to do that with the deadlift at the end. So, we'll see if those chips actually do come into play.
Yeah.
But yeah, Val's been looking pretty good. She's the kind of lifter who, when she's very, very stressed about training stuff, her training goes badly. But then when she's stressed about non-training stuff and her training is just like another thing that she's doing that day, she trains well. So I actually think that despite this prep being less of a focused prep, I think her comp will actually go really well.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. I think it has to be said as well with the layout. you noted like Zin's deadlift there, 175.
Mm.
Like that's a major difference and advantage when it comes down to it. So when it all shakes down, this could get really close. But in reality, we're going to have a massive pull on second and third, which is going to be really command the day if she's feeling strong. So I think it'll be interesting to see how that all shakes up. And if Ainsley has, what you said she's going to be doing 370-ish in training.
Yep, 370 this week.
Right. So, I mean, there's a lot of movement going on compared to the numbers we're looking at here. If Val comes through and puts another 10 to 15, right, and anyone has any mistakes, like there's plenty going on there. So I think this is a very, very interesting and fun class to watch on the day.
We could see a full podium of 370 plus, which would be great.
Yeah.
And what I love about this battle is the 4 women are all very different. Like their strengths are in different spots.
Yeah.
So they all have to take advantage of the advantages that they do have. Some of them need to get every kilo on squat. Some of them need to get every kilo on bench. And then obviously Zin with the big deadlift at the end. I'm going to pick Zin because of the big deadlift at the end, because I think this just having that trump card at the end is the biggest advantage that you can have. It's my favorite card to play as a coach.
For sure. Plus the fact the record's 170.
It's yeah. It's just that little thing that you've got in your back pocket. You get to decide the outcome at the end.
Yeah.
And you get to choose. You get to select exactly the number that you need, which is also another advantage.
Yeah. And it also has to be said like that. Also, she doesn't just have the biggest deadlift; she's coming with the biggest total. So it also takes the pressure off the subtotal to some degree during the day. Those other lifters have to do something special to even demand a big pull from Zin in terms of her capabilities if she's on, having a good day. So I think that's another element too when it comes to like the totality of the day. That lifter can afford to be quite relaxed, just do their thing and perform like we said you should perform at nationals, which is just to kind of execute your plan and go about your business, and then see what needs to be done on the final pull, and then actually only to know exactly what the minimum requirement is. That's where the advantage lies. I feel. Is that it's not just you get to go last, it's that you actually have the knowledge to know exactly what the minimum requirement is to actually get what you want.
Well, yeah, you get to go last and choose exactly the amount that you need.
Yeah.
So if you need to win on body weight, you can pick the lowest possible number. If you need to win by... Yeah.
Essentially, someone walks up to you and goes, what would you like from this? What placing would you like to try and get? And no one can take that attempt from you if you get it, which is a very cool thing.
Yeah.
And to be so far ahead on that deadlift, I think, it's very important to note that, because like that second pull is going to be a power pull too in terms of like, shaking up where people stand and kind of commanding that day again. People are going to need to present something very special to take that,
And there's also a difference between having potentially the biggest deadlift and going like near the end, or actually being definitely at the end.
Head and shoulders.
Because if you're in a situation where there's, 3 or 4 lifters who are doing within 5 or 7 kilos of each other, they can all kind of put in bogey attempts and like kind of mess each other around a little bit and screw around the order a little bit. And you almost get forced to play your hands a little bit earlier than you have to.
Yeah.
Whereas in this situation, it's like, we know we're going last. Like, let's just sit back and wait. Oh, we need 173 for the win. Bang. There it is. Here you go.
Imagine trying to bluff that. Imagine one of these lifters who's like 140 or 150 being like, 177. Like, I'd do it.
Don't change. Don't change.
Yeah, don't change.
I
Just
dare you
do
not
it.
to change.
A lifter we haven't mentioned yet is Wendy Nguyen. She actually competed at Junior New South Wales States and hit 352. So that's just another lady to add to the mix.
There you go.
So there's...
So the total was wrong
5
in the
or
spreadsheet.
6. Yeah, it was wrong. But that's all good. And honourable mentions to Jackie Caldona. She's a former Australian representative, I think, from Sweden Worlds.
Oh, cool.
And also Tao Pham as well, who's stepping onto the platform as an M1. And then last but not least, Kiner. She's coached by Kelvin Tran. She didn't have the day that we thought that she was going to have at Open Women's, but I'm sure she's going to turn up at her 3rd ever competition, being Open Nationals, and it'll be good to see her have a good day out.
Yeah, so we've got 5 lifters there above 350 on the noms, and then 2 more within 15 kilos of that. So we could see, one of any number of 7 lifters on the podium there, which is pretty cool.
Something to clarify is we're not talking about the nominations formally. We are talking about the best totals in open powerlifting if they're recent. So that's just kind of the jargon we're using there when we're saying noms.
Yep.
The actual nominations might vary slightly.
Do you guys want to put in any predictions for this class? We didn't do that for the last 2 because they were pretty.
I'm personally not that from my perspective, the predictions thing, I'm not that keen on from my perspective. If you guys want to run at that, go for it. I'm keen on the discussion, like, wow, like, let's talk about the ins and outs of each lifter.
Yeah.
And I think that it's obvious where that sort of like prediction lies.
I
if
think
you
the
guys
top
want to
three
have at
will
it.
be the nominated top three. That's just my prediction.
Fair.
Purely because I know how Ainsley's training's been going. I know how Jay's training's been going. And Zin, I know that she's going to be up there because she has something to prove given her world's results. I think she wants to go back to the platform to do something.
I think the top three will also be the top three. I think Zim will win, and I don't know what order Ainsley and Jordana will be. But I think that, like we said, Zin with the big deadlift at the end,
It does help a
she's
lot.
going to decide her fate.
But on the contrary, the record is 140, and both Ainsley and Jordana squat above 140, so they're going to have a chip advantage going into deadlifts.
Yes.
So therefore, it will just play out as it is.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like much of a
But
much.
yeah,
It's like if
adding
you have a
half a
chip,
kilo to the deadlift.
that's
yeah.
right. Like if you have a chip advantage and then someone else has a chip advantage later, it's like,
Yeah.
Like-
Having the chip advantage is more useful when the other person would then have to take a 2.5 instead of a
Correct.
half or a
Yes.
1.
Yeah.
exactly.
So yeah.
If the record was like 190 or something, like, you know, that would be really
Mm.
helpful to have that squat chip advantage. Otherwise, like,
Yep.
it's just going to be,
Cool.
essentially dissolved later in the comp.
Cool. So 52's done. Moving on to
Nice.
the 66 class.
Good luck 52s.
66 men. We have 9 lifters.
This is so good. There's like I've never seen so many lightweight populated comps. Like
Yeah.
it's awesome.
And also, like,
Yeah, it is cool.
stacked, like, really, really good depth. And then, like, really tidy competitions between lifters and multi-level competition. Not just like a 1-2 or a 1-2-3. Actually, like, lots that can go on and move things around, which is kind of the essence of nationals.
Yeah.
Is like you love to see someone who's nominated 6 end up in 2 or something like that.
I was today years old when I remembered that PA used to just do top 6 only. Remember that? And then like some people wouldn't go, and then it would just be like 3 or 4 people.
Well, it depended on the class. Sometimes they would invite 10 in a class.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah,
they'd
it
invite
was
1
more
or
than
2.
6.
But they had a cap on the numbers because they did it at the expo. So then they had a certain amount of stage time.
And time.
So then they had like 60 spots or whatever it was.
Yep.
So they were just restricted. Yeah, but yeah, that was stupid.
All right, well,
Anyway.
Alex, let's go 3, 2, 1. Raymond Wong. So he trains here, mate. How's his training been?
He does not train here.
Really?
He used to train here.
Oh, sorry.
I don't actually know where he trains now. He is one of John's really good friends.
Yeah.
Known John for ages. He actually tore his pec, while he was here doing the bench only comp for the
Are you serious?
for the open day. Yeah, he had a pec tear. So I think he had like a couple of weeks off training. I can't see him. I actually don't think he'll get on the podium because I think it's just been too long since he's been at this level.
Yeah, well, 590 is his best nominated total, and that was from a very long time ago.
Yeah, that's kind of my point here. I think he'll actually end up in the 5, 6, 7 range, particularly with guys like TN who can just have the opportunity to pull for the podium or pull for a placing at the end with the big deadlift. I'm not going to write Ray off because he's a veteran of the sport. We just checked, this will be his 30th competition.
Fucking hell.
So he's done lots of comps back in the equipped single ply days and all the way through PA and now with APA. He's a veteran, so he'll be there. He'll make lifts. He knows what he's doing. But I don't know if he'll actually be strong enough to end up on the podium here.
Yeah, for sure. And then second nominated is Andrew Trieu. Hope I said that right. His second highest nominated was 631, which is huge. He recently did that at New South Wales Open Men's, where he went perfect 9 for 9. And a good stat for Andrew is that since his second comp back in 2020, when he totaled 412, he has made a total PR at every single competition.
Wow.
So it's been completely linear since. He hasn't been shy posting on social media, which has been really helpful for scouting. And he's gone 232 this week. Last week. 142. Both at 6 RPE. I'm kidding. It was really hard.
They were both hard.
It was
Yeah,
RP. It was RP Panna.
Did you see it? Oh,
Yeah, it
I
was
didn't see
fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Penna
it was
leading from the
tough.
front, showing how the 66ers should grind.
Can we stop talking about Panna?
Okay, I'm sorry.
Don't like Panna.
Deadlift unknown, but I think that's just an advantage for him because his best pull and comp is 256. And granted that the record's 265, it could lean into a chip advantage over Yuki, but I think that, again, probably will dissolve given that he will probably take the squat and bench as well. And then...
Well, Andrew and Yuki are both very close on squat. And the squat record, I believe, is 225, the standard.
That's correct, yeah.
So they will probably be battling it out for a chip there on the third squat, maybe even the second squat,
Yeah.
which will probably be really important towards the end of the competition as well because they're only separated by 5 kilos in the total. Obviously, Yuki has a huge advantage on bench.
Huge.
165 and a half at 66 is fucking massive.
Bonkers.
He actually got bronze bench press individual medal at Worlds,
Yeah, wow.
That's
which
really
is
cool.
which is fucking awesome. And yeah, Andrew has a small advantage on the deadlift. I think that Yuki is probably still a little bit too far ahead with the big subtotal with the big bench.
Yep.
So I do actually think Yuki will win.
Yeah, well, Yuki's
But
been dancing around.
The thing with Yuki is like his lifts are very borderline to the standard. His squats are very close to the line. His bench press technique is like just at elbow depth, and he often doesn't hit pauses correctly. His bum's often close to coming up.
Yep.
So he will have to execute well to win. I think at this point in his career, he is experienced enough that he actually will do that. So I'm backing him in to win. But I also think Andrew will have a go at pulling for the win at the end.
For sure. And Yuki's been dancing around that 630 mark since October 2022. And the reason why he's been dancing around that mark is purely because of the fact that he, as you said, I guess walks very close to the line of what is like a successful attempt by the rule book.
Yeah.
But in his training as of recent, we saw him hit a 227 kilo squat last week, which was, to my eyes, at 8.5 RPE, which is good for him. He also benched 170, and that was 2 comp standard, which was really nice. And then further, he deadlifted 237 at probably around about an 8 RPE, which gives him a 635 training total. So given that was last week, if he's like any other 66 kilo lifter, he probably has another week worth of training left under his belt. We're probably going to be looking to see him total around 650 in training, which is going to be very hard to beat on the day for Andrew. So it'll be good to see Yuki get close to that.
But like you said, though, Andrew's progressed every single comp.
Yeah.
Which means, we probably can expect a little bit more improvement, which is great.
Yeah.
So I really hope that this ends up to being one of those battles where it's kind of neck and neck the whole way, with each lifter having little advantages here and there, and the best lifter on the day will be the one who wins.
That's right. And then again, as we've already noted a few times, that's assuming everything goes well for both lifters. So something this close, where you have, a very, very close battle or a very, very close best lifts in the past, then you have this one lifter, Andrew, who has progressed his total every single comp he's done.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep.
Okay, so statistically, he'll progress.
Yep.
So Yuki has some advantages, but it'll be on Yuki to perform, as you've kind of alluded to, which you believe he can, and I would tend to agree with that. But, as always, when it comes down to it, a single missed lift puts the pressure on massively against someone who progresses their total every single comp they do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly right. The pressure will be on Yuki to make sure he does hit the standard and that he is executing. But like I said, I think he has the experience under his belt. Now he's been to Worlds. He knows what the world standard is like. I back him.
I agree with that, and I think as well, both of these lifters have a really cool energy about them on comp days, where they really rise to the challenge and go at it. So I think it's going to be a very exciting battle to
two
watch.
very fun lifters to watch. They're up and buzzy and really fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a really good one.
So we've got 4 lifters between 565 to 590. Who are basically going to be battling for that third spot on the podium. We've got Ray, who we spoke about earlier. We've got Tharen, Tien, and Vin. How much do you know about these guys?
Well, I don't know much about Tharen or Vin, but I do know a bit about Tien, just purely because we have the same coach. So this week, I'm pretty sure he's squatting 205. Bench has been in the bin for a bit just because he's been dealing with some shoulder pain. But thankfully, he's been seeing someone about it. So hopefully he can string together something for the middle 3 lifts. But deadlift has been phenomenal. Pulled 270 last block. He has a very similar sort of like deadlift style of training to what I have. So I kind of know what he's in for, aka a set of 7 at RP 10. So it'll be good to see him string together a big third pull just to land as high as he can.
Yeah. How much do we know about Taren and Vin, Maddie?
So I haven't done any research on this particular class, and I'm not up to date on their training particularly, so I think we can't make a ton of comments there.
Yeah.
We can see Jacob and Steve are their coaches, so we can definitely assume that they're coming in with really good training and with a sound comp plan, ready to push for a placing. So I think that's going to be a really, again, like secondary battle to witness in the class is going to be this, battle up top. And then who else is going to get on the podium? I think that's going to be really fun.
Yeah.
So Taren's best total is 574. Potts, can you quickly look up where he got the chip?
I'm looking at it right
Where's
now.
he got that? Where's he got that advantage?
No, the best I've got here is No, that was another. That was in wraps apparently. But
Oh, okay.
looking at his best total was at Night of Champions in WA April last year. It's a 567.
67.5.
Okay,
And
so
then
that's
his
still pretty
total
close.
drops to 542, then 515 at WA State. So I'm not sure what's happened there in
Ja-
regards to aggression.
We've spoken to Jacob a little bit about some of the he uses the APU rules quite strictly to get his clients to progress. So perhaps there's just some sandbagging going on
True.
to get minimum on the podium to get
I would
to
expect.
nationals.
I would
type of thing.
expect so.
That's kind of where my
I don't
head's at
expect
there.
anything less, Jacob.
Yeah, you cheeky bastard.
But then we got Vin
you
over
abiding
here.
by rules guy.
Yeah, similar sort of thing. It must be a WA thing. They just kind of drop their totals off over the years. But I'm kidding. But no,
Bro,
that's
WA looking fierce.
not. I know they are.
WA
But,
looking fierce.
but like, what's going on? 66ers. But
Clip that.
Vin will be
Clip that
there.
for Jacob.
Particularly that for Jacob. Vin should be there, given that he did 565 at the same comp as Thander in April last year.
Yeah.
And then 490 at WA State. So hopefully they're both in contention for their best performances to push TN and the others.
Well, yeah, not much under what we have here, but that actually makes that battle almost identical totals.
Even better, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I think this is going to be great. Like I said, we don't have a ton of data on a couple of them there, but that's going to be a good one to see unfold for sure.
And like we've said before, you can put all these best lifts in front of you, or these are their PBs, but it really does come down to who executes on the day. Like one missed attempt can mean you fall from third to sixth.
That's right.
Three made attempts can mean you go from sixth to third. So it really will be who executes best on the day, and it's really cool that there's 6 guys in contention for 3 podium spots, in particular 4 biting at the one final podium spot.
And I think with regard to what you mentioned about execution, it's not only about execution, but I think what it also unveils at a big event like this is, let's say that all 3 of those lifters who we're talking about contending for third, four lifters, have less than good days. They have average days. It actually now becomes about which coach-client partnership or coach-athlete partnership adapts to that and makes lifts despite. So it's actually not even about execution at that point. It can also be about how adaptable you are on the day to get the best possible outcome. And I think that's something cool about a national event where things are close, is it is about how much can you lift, but then it also becomes about that dynamic too, and good coaching, good platform coaching, good decisions, mature decisions, right? I'm excited to see if that has a part to play in those battles.
And the lifter who is just outside that bubble is actually Tony Vuong. Do you guys remember Tony from the PA days?
Yeah.
He actually used to lift in the 59 class, and he squatted, I believe, 200 and a half
Yeah, I remember
as a
him.
59 junior, which is huge. He's going up to the 66. He's actually just made a comeback from a long time off. I think he had 3 or 4 years off competing completely. So he's actually another one to watch for the podium as well. He's very well rounded. He's good across all 3 lifts, particularly good in the squat.
Yeah.
So there's another name there. His totals are quite a bit lower than those other 4, but
I mean, not a world away though.
He's nominated. Well, his best total is 15 kilos below
Yeah.
the next guy, but like I said, he's just had a long time off. He's gone up a weight class. He could easily put 25 to 30 on his total and be right there for third.
Sensational.
Sensational. All right,
66ers.
moving on.
Fantastic. All right, good luck to the 66ers.
Good luck to the 66ers. Moving on, the 57 women.
All right, 57s.
This is a fun one, really fun one. We've got essentially the top 3 could really be in any order here, which is really exciting because we've said it a million times already. Going to come down to who executes on the day, who picks the right numbers, and who plays the day rather than playing this, idealistic plan.
Yeah. I reached out to a few of the lifters, top 3 nominated lifters here. So Liz, Teresa, Kel, and they each had some comments. Might start with Liz, but mostly get you to chat about Liz and how her prep has gone. Liz was pretty general about giving me insights. She's pretty happy to not be in the middle of an injury. She's been through it.
Yeah.
She's focused on doing as well as she can at nationals, but she's really focused on her business right now, so she kind of hasn't thought any further ahead than nationals. But I think that she's sometimes not one to give herself credit that's due. So as a coach, let's give her a bit of credit and talk
Yeah.
about how her lifting has been going this prep.
Yeah, so I only started coaching her for this prep, so it's only been 9 weeks. But she's actually been going really well. We ran a block of doubles as a first block, kind of just to keep things a little bit lighter because she usually trains so heavy and so hard that she's always like kind of beat up and always fatigued. So I wanted to pull things back a little bit and then leave ourselves room to progress. Last week she hit 150, 85, 180, and she had, probably 5 kilos in the tank on squat and deadlift, and the bench was, right on maxed out, which is good. So I would expect her to be in that sort of 152 to 155 range for squat, and we'll have the opportunity to chip the squat as well if we can, because the standard is 152 and a half. Bench I expect 85, deadlift I expect 182 to 185. I think that's very reasonable. And yeah, like you said, she doesn't give herself a lot of credit. She is looking strong. She's obviously been stronger in the past, but she's nearly 50. So it's fucking awesome to see someone who's nearly 50, still the first nominated, still the one to beat.
It's so impressive.
She's got the target on her. She may not win, but she's really close to the best that she's ever been, and she's nearly 50. So that's fucking awesome.
I think as well, it's something that we've all seen time and time again. When it comes to competition day, Liz is a fierce competitor.
Oh, yeah, she'll turn
She
up.
executes. She has the experience, and when it comes to the day, she will turn up. So I'm definitely excited to see that. So cool. Thanks for those insights there.
I've also witnessed her on comp days where she's had very bad preps. Like one prep, for instance, she had I think she had like a thumb injury,
Yeah, I remember this one.
and then she ended up deadlifting 190.
Pulled massive. I
and
remember
I think
that.
she'd only done 170.
I
in
remember
Melbourne.
that. That was
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2018 or 19.
Yeah.
I think that
it
was still her
19.
best total to date.
Yeah.
But she was going into that kind of like, oh, I don't know, I don't think I'm very strong at the moment, blah, blah, blah. And then she turned up on the day, and like you can just kind of see it in her eyes. Like she just flicks this switch.
Yeah.
And it's like, she used to do this thing where she would say like, I'm a bad bitch.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
in her
yeah.
head. That was like her
Yeah,
way
yeah.
of G'ing up. We had her on weekly weights. She was one of our first ever
Bro,
episodes.
remember the city strength comp? We were into her around the side.
Yeah.
Like she loves that shit.
So like, as much as she is kind of downplaying a little bit, I think that's what
Yeah.
she actually truly believes at this moment.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
But I think that once she turns up, that switch will flick, and she'll be ready to win. And I think she's in a pretty good position to do
Well,
so.
I mean, the numbers you just listed would put her in an excellent position to win. And I think that there's nothing wrong with understating yourself a little bit, leading into a competition and just training and then coming in and switching it on. Like if that's you, do your thing.
I think you also got her when you message her. She like just got sick, so she was probably like a little bit like
Oh yeah.
a little bit of that short term like.
Oh yeah. No. Yeah, absolutely. That's why I sort of encourage that we sort of go through it as someone who's right in a corner. So excellent. Obviously, Liz looking fantastic. Teresa. So for Teresa, she has come down a weight class, and she said that's going very well.
Yeah,
So
this will
she's-
be her first comp at 57.
Yep. So she's not concerned about her weight. That's been managed really nicely. To add to that, while she's been going through that process, she's had a really good prep. So she's been very happy with the prep. The coach has been very happy with the prep. And this actually tangible side of things, she's hit bigger lifts in this prep than any other prep, which is very impressive.
It's awesome.
So she's just very excited, very humbled to be, at the competition, competing against people like Liz. So she had really lovely things to say about just being really happy to be there. But I think that she's definitely gonna be one to watch out for. I think that, coming in here, we've got, 412 and a half as her best total.
I think it's actually 414.
14?
That's wrong.
Okay, no worries.
It's 414 from junior states.
Gotcha, yep. So 414, that was a 9 for 9 day, I believe.
I
Mentioned.
think so, yes.
Yep. And if you look at some of the numbers you just sort of listed from Liz, that's in the ballparks. And so again, it's going to come down to, as we've been saying this whole time, decisions, execution, and all the rest of it.
Yep.
I think that, when one cuts weight and when one goes down a weight class, you can't hide from that has effects. So, there are sort of extenuating circumstances or exceptions to the rule where that doesn't happen, or it's just managed so perfectly and all the stars align, it doesn't happen, even progress happens. We've seen that on the Sheffield stage, right? So, I hope that goes that way for her and we see an improvement on the total. I'll be very interested to see. The training has looked good, but I think something that is important to note is that sometimes when you do lose weight, when you get to that top end is when you realize some of those differences. And on competition day is where it will all be shown. So I think this will be a really, really interesting class. Next, Curl Andrews.
Just on that point, Matty,
you go.
with the top end thing, what we mean there is, 95% of your 1RM is very heavy, but it's not the top end. And it's not when you notice that
Exactly.
feeling of being a bit lighter. Like, Potty, you experienced this when we did that comp at 77 at Team Champs. Like, your squats in the 220s, 230s were good, and then you got to 235 and it just fucking fell off a cliff.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what is, not that this is the expectation, but something that you see that's very common.
It is common. Yeah, it has to be said.
Like, it's great, and then all of a sudden it's very hard, very quick.
So I think that for Teresa, all the signs point towards her doing really, really well and, PRing her total and all those things. But it'll just be interesting because, normally you would see that kind of weight class change have effects.
Yeah.
Will that happen with her? Or will she actually be that exception to that rule and blow up? Like, I'll be very interested to see that.
Yeah. And what I'm excited for with these two is that their lifts for squat, bench, and deadlift are all actually very similar. So the attempts are actually going to be probably after one another each time. Like, Teresa goes, Liz goes, or Liz goes, Teresa goes. And it will be very like head-to-heady in that kind of way where it's like, okay, she just made it. That means the pressure is on you right now to make it. And it's a very interesting competition when it's that kind of thing, as opposed to like, one person's a big squatter and one person's a big deadlift. And you've almost got a little bit of space between each other. Whereas in this instance, it's like you're following each other. You're immediately putting the pressure on the next person to make. So yeah, like we said before, it's going to really come down to execution. And perhaps might even come down to a final deadlift from either one of them.
Totally. And I think that, the last thing I would note in this sort of face-off, and not to discount Kelly Andrews, because I'm going to talk about her in a moment, is competition platform experience. We have two lifters, arguably down either side of the spectrum in that regard. One who's done how many comps Liz has done.
I don't know. I'd probably guess. My guess would probably be like 45 would be my guess.
And then you have Teresa, who is a much younger lifter, starting off in the sport, doing excellent things, but has a few less comps under her belt. Now, I think sometimes that matters, and sometimes it really doesn't. It's one of those situations where one can do 2-3 comps and lap up 90% of the experience benefits they're going to get, and someone else needs to do 10 or 15 to kind of get to that same proficiency of being a comp day performer. Some people are just really good at comp day performing from the outset. So it doesn't always matter, but it's just something worth noting that, there might be moments, stressful moments or things that happen on the day that would normally throw a lifter off that might have different effects on these two lifters. And that, again, is the nature of nationals. Things like that happen. So it'll just be interesting to see how that shakes down. Now, next with Kelly Andrews, messaged her. She was very short and sweet with her response. She seemed kind of like cheeky and like excited. She was like, "Oh, things have been going really well." She goes, "I'm ready to bring the heat." So she's not wanting to be counted out there. She's kind of going, "Look, this has been a good prep for me. I know these two lifters, are a bit higher than me in terms of their nominated totals, but I'm going to be right there, and I've had a good prep." So she'll come in with hopefully some strong lifts to put pressure on those two.
Yeah, and it looks like Kelly's strength is really in her squat. She's a little bit behind, particularly on bench compared to the other two girls, which I think means she actually probably needs to take a little bit of a risk on squat and get 5 or 7.5 kilos ahead of the other two at the start of the day to set her up. Otherwise, she'll probably just end up falling behind. But it's great to hear that, she's in a good spot and she feels like she's progressed and she's ready to, maybe hurt some feelings a little bit, which is awesome. And I love when there's a competition like this where 3 people could win and it just literally comes down to, like we were saying, who's actually the best on the day? Like, who won?
Yes.
Because the strongest lifter doesn't always win. The best lifter wins.
Yep. Good point.
The one who executes the most, the one who gets the kilos that they earn, the one who gets the kilos that were there, the one who finishes with the biggest total on the day, that's the one who wins.
Absolutely.
And it could be any of these 3.
It's worth mentioning Kirsty and Daisy, who are sitting at 4th and 5th nominated with 390, 375. You then have this possibility of vying for that 3rd position if risks are taken and they don't pay off. So we also have that in the conversation as well, which will be really cool to see happen. And then for those two to also have their own little battle for that first placing off of the podium. So again, a great weight class to get amongst. And yeah, I'm very excited to watch it all unfold.
Yeah, should be a fun one. Potts, do you have anything else to add?
No, mate, that's it. You guys did a really good job.
Awesome.
Good luck to the 57s.
All right, moving on to 74.
74's next. This is
The Stephen Day class.
this is a fun weight class. Bit of a shake-up going on coming in with you could call it a late entry from Leo.
Yep.
I know he had some troubles getting processing of his entry, and we sorted it out for him. So that'll be a really, really good addition to the weight class there, which is normally one that is run by Steve lately. Let's talk about it.
I think something that we mentioned earlier was, when there is someone who's at the top who doesn't feel any pressure from underneath them, it changes their mindset going into a competition. Like last APU Nationals, Steve went 3 for 9 and he won by like 1 million kilos and he won best lifter because like there was just no pressure on him. So he didn't really care about making lifts. He just went in and like, oh, fuck it, I'll try this load.
Or he mightn't have.
He missed a couple of squats on depth, so that was a bit different. But on deadlift, he literally just went super YOLO on the last one. Which he won't have the luxury of doing this time, which I think is really cool because we might actually get to see Steve have to put together a perfect day to win, which would be really cool.
Yep. And I might just say that I think Steve looks phenomenal at the moment.
He looks great.
I think if there's any comp where he needs to be ready to have that battle and to be up to standard, he's looking like he has ticked those boxes. And I think that I'll quickly speak on my thoughts with Steve and his training and his competition performances. As with a lot of lighter weight lifters, say like 74s, 66s, you see these technical adjustments that sort of skirt the rules a little bit more, or maybe more sort of efficiency driven, wider stances, all this sort of stuff, higher arches, great things. But I think what that brings with it is sometimes risk, missing lifts on depth or whatnot, various things that can happen. And it also means that sometimes top end strengths are a little bit more finicky, a little bit harder to dial in. But I think that I have noticed in his training coming in the last few weeks particularly, he looks, one, very strong.
He does. He looks
very
strong,
super strong, just straight out. Second, very much to standard. So his pauses have been good on bench press. His depth looks good there. His squat depth, especially his 275 that he hit recently, was exceptional for where I've seen his training be in the past. Mind you, I've seen some other sets in this prep where they haven't been quite as good, but when he's doing his heaviest loads, this prep, he's looking very, very good. And his deadlift looks very good as well, very consistent.
I think his deadlift's the one where he's going to gain some kilos. Like I wouldn't be surprised if he pulled 305, to be honest. Like he looks like he's ready for taking that next step with
absolutely.
the deadlift. Like it's kind of been festering for a while, and he's almost ready to get a bit of a spike.
I actually mentioned, mate, because he commented on my deadlift last night. And I said, "Hey, Stephen, you pulling 305 yet or what?" And he literally responded in his own words, "If I wanna, I guess I could." So
there you go. Hey, Stradamus. Since he came on this podcast, he's been niggle free.
Yeah.
He's been performing well.
And he's been relaxed. He's not stressed.
Mate, the same thing happened to you.
Yeah,
You've been performing well since you came on this podcast. I think we've got something going
Matty
here.
B. Hey,
My back's been feeling great since
Matt's
I came
been
on this
going well. He
podcast.
hasn't done a comp yet, but he's going to kill it.
Yeah, hopefully I'm 6 weeks out. We'll see.
There we go.
Yeah.
I think where Leo gains kilos on Steve is on the deadlift, which is always fun when the person who's behind has a chance to, potentially beat them at the end, which I think will be potentially really interesting.
Leo was Australia's first 10 times bodyweight total raw and tested, right?
Yes, he did 737 at 737 at 737. Yeah,
at comps.
Yeah, Commonwealths. Yep.
it was what, about 3 years ago? 4 years ago?
2022.
Okay, 2 years
In
ago.
November 2022.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
recent.
So he did 268.5 on squat. He benched 160 and deadlifted 308.5.
Yeah, right.
And yeah, since then he's gone 660 at South Australia State Qualifier, but didn't do nationals in 2023, and then did. Oh, there wasn't a nationals 2023. Sorry.
Yep.
So he did 2 comps. He did South Australia State Qualifier at 660, and then did WA State Qualifier at 715.
So his best lifts added up together are actually more than his best total, which is interesting. Like his best squats 275, his best deadlifts 312 and a half, which
It's like he missed 303 at WA States.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of potential there with Leo. I must admit, I'm pretty sure I follow him. I haven't seen a lot of his training posted, so I think he kind of keeps to himself in that regard sometimes. Other times I've seen him post almost everything. So I'm not fully around where his capabilities are at the moment, but I know that, these two have had really strong times in the weight class at sort of varying times. I'm pretty sure they haven't actually had a head-to-head. I'm not 100% sure.
yeah,
but I'm
Steve
pretty
was
sure.
Steve was.
This is literally their first battle, I think.
Yeah,
Steve
so-
was struggling with injury when Leo's at the top, and
Yeah.
then Leo kind of disappeared, and then
Yeah, so I think it'll be super interesting, and I think that also for someone like Leo, who's obviously been so strong for so long, right, or for the last handful of years, it's not out of the question to have, you know, an exceptional prep, exceptional comp, and really take it to Steve in regard to his total. And I'd like to see that. I think it would be great to see Steve's day maximized because Leo's kind of close enough, but I think it would be even better to see both of them have days that are very, very close. Because at the moment, it kind of sits like, okay, if Steve has an exceptional day, he probably just has someone who's close enough to keep him to standard. Whereas I'd love to see Leo do something exceptional to kind of be in that place where like they're genuinely going head to head. I'd love to see that.
I think like just based on the form with Leo, given the time off and given the more recent results, I don't think he's quite there. And I think if Steve executes and performs well, which is actually an if, because he's been, you know, questionable in the past, like we mentioned, the 3 for 9 at Nationals. He's had other days, you know, 5, 6, 7 for 9. So if he has one of those days, you know, Leo could very easily win. But I think if Steve is up to his standard and he has a strong day and he's executing, he should win.
I literally am the only reason why he goes 9 for 9 because at every comp he goes 9 for 9, I'm handling him. So I'm not going to handle him.
You're not.
Kelly's
listed
handling
here-
him.
down here.
Yeah, I
Kelly's
know because
listed.
I'm the next day. So Stephen, pull it together. You know, actually do what you're capable of, and let's see how you go.
Yeah, I'm sure that Kelly and Steve are capable of looking at their previous comp plans that have not gone so well and assess the whys. And that's what competition makes you do, because you have to go, hold on a second, what are the risks here with the way I'm playing this, and how could I play it better and lower risk to make sure that I at least maximize close to my potential? Because there's always that question of, okay, you can possibly squeeze out an extra sort of 5 to 7 kilos on a total being really risky, and then the potential downside or loss on that is far more significant. And if that's significant enough that that actually meant a second place here, that would be, you know, a major L for that team. So I hope to see that team come together, hit 8 or 9 from 9, hit something unprecedented, and have the day they deserve. You know, that would be great to see. But I think you're probably right regarding Leo that if recent results indicate anything, it's probably that's not going to be the battle that I would hope to see.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I guess it's just a bit of a wait and see because we don't have a ton of data on Leo.
I also hope that if Leo isn't quite to Steve's standard, that he doesn't try to chase.
Agreed.
Like I hope that if he knows he can't quite catch Steve, just plays his own day and tries to achieve his biggest total.
Yep.
And almost uses this as like a platform to the next one where he's potentially actually fighting with Steve.
Yep.
Because, you know, if he does chase first, he may risk second and someone else could swoop in and take the silver.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah.
There is quite a big gap between second and third nominated here, or
was
second
gonna
and
say
third
that.
best
But
totals.
quite a small gap.
And then a bunch
Yep.
in that sort of section who are very, very close to each other.
Yep. So there's 4 lifters between 660 and 675. They are Oscar, Tom Del Rosario, and Tom Duong, and Kian.
Go on, say the last name.
I'm not going to say the last name.
It's pretty long. But we're not going to try. Yeah, it'll be good to see these guys battle it out. Obviously, third is pretty much up for contention. So it's going to be its own battle, I think, between third and sixth place overall.
Absolutely.
So
a lot of
I
potential
know.
there.
So Tom Duong trains here. He's been training really well. He looks strong on all 3 lifts. I think he'll be in for a PB total. I know he PB'd his total at States and he missed a squat. So there's room there for growth. So he could very easily be that person in third. I know Oscar has a huge bench press, which could...
He's so jacked.
He's so jacked.
Bro, there's
Yeah,
no
Oscar-
way that guy's 74.
Oscar trains at Breakthrough.
Yep.
He's a weapon. He's a busy dad who gets it done. Really, really
High bar squatter?
high bar squatter.
Yeah.
My first time
Squatted
meeting him, he
deep
came,
as
into,
fuck.
he came into City Strength and he brought his kid. And
Yeah.
he went in and he was giving his kid kisses between each attempt. It was so
yeah,
cute.
he's a legend.
It was
So he squatted
sweet.
250 the other day. I was spotting him. He squatted 50. So he's doing well there. His deadlifts looked on point too. The bench press is where he's going to pick up kilos because he has not had good days on the bench press when it comes to just some of the like choices and rules and things. So
Yeah,
you look
15
here
kilo
at-
jumps.
yeah, if you look here, he's gone, 135, I miss at 150, I miss at 165, for instance, right? So we're talking about someone who's realistically making choices in the 50 to 60 range, but hasn't put that up on the platform. So we're talking 20 kilos on what we have here nominated. So straight away, this is someone who, for me, is a favorite in this next pool of lifters, because I think that what we're looking at here isn't a reflection of what he can do. And I think that comes down to, again, what we keep reiterating, which is good comp plans, good decisions on the day. If you're missing a lift, more often than not, retaking or taking a small jump, depending on the circumstances. That for him is going to be a massive kilo jumper. And for the rest, if we assume their training has gone well too, we're going to be looking at a bunch of lifters, doing 670 plus, looking at that third place. That'd be great.
I'd love to see Denny Lee come back to his best with his bench. I know he's been going through a fair bit of injuries regarding his shoulder. So to see him back up near 160 would be an easy plus 15 kilos on his total. And then additionally, like every single competition since he's moved up to 74, he's improved his squat and deadlift at every single competition. So I think compounding on what would be A, a new weight class, and B, hopefully a healthy shoulder, him and Oscar should be relatively close to that third
Yeah,
place.
I agree with that actually.
And I think, sorry, you go, Matty.
Yeah, I was going to say, so Danny's been training at Breakthrough as well. Actually didn't see him to say on the list. Danny's been training at Breakthrough a little bit too, so I've had the luxury of having insights there too and checking out his lifting. Lovely guy to train around. Really hope he does well. He has been doing really well with his shoulder, so that's really promising. For a while there, he was doing like a lot of board pressing and kind of managing load that way for the shoulder, but he's been doing weeks now of normal competition pressing and doing very, very well
That's so
there.
good.
I know he's also had a lot of really good deadlift success in his last couple of training blocks. And his squat hasn't looked bad at all. His squats look solid. So I think he's going to definitely be another really strong contender. Like I said before, I think that with Oscar, the slight edge there is that there is that significant bench jump we just haven't actually seen from him.
Yep.
He's going to have to contend with that jump and then kind of battle from there. But I would 100% agree. Danny's also super balanced.
Yeah, but do you remember his third attempt probably opener from last year at Open Nationals?
Which lift?
Denny Lee.
Yeah, which lift?
It was bench press.
Yeah.
The extended pause.
I remember.
do remember that. Didn't he bomb?
yeah, I do
Didn't he
remember that.
bomb?
He bombed on deadlifts.
Oh, that's right.
Should have bombed on bench based on the calls.
Right.
I do
But
remember that.
Man,
Goodness
like,
me.
holy shit.
Yeah.
Like,
So
Mr. Discipline.
yeah.
oh.
Yeah.
We haven't mentioned Kian yet, other than trying to not pronounce his name. But he's actually super balanced as well. Above 250, above 160, and 270 deadlift, and he did all those in the same day, which I love. So if we see a marginal improvement there, he'll be right in the mix for that bronze.
Yeah.
Which is super cool. And if any of these guys actually improve, up close to 600 to 700, we could see one of them trying to get over Leo for second as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm on Kian's open powerlifting right now, and he actually hit 675 with 2 missed pulls.
Oh,
And
shit.
so he opened at 260 and then went to 275, then 280 and missed both of them. So there's 25 kilos there up for grabs. And
So we could see Kian at around 700.
mate, if he is 700, that is pretty hard to beat.
Yeah.
For a third place.
For a third place. And also, as Hazy mentioned, that it would depend how Leo's day goes for that to potentially be a contention for second.
And obviously Leo will have the final say over all of those guys on deadlift.
Yep, for sure.
So he'll be able to put himself in second
Yep.
if that's the case. So yeah, a really fun class here. I can't see anyone beating Steven. And I actually just don't know who's going to be second and third here, and I don't want to choose it. I just want to watch.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It's going to be a very exciting weight class.
Potts, you want any predictions, or are you just going to watch?
I'll just watch.
All right.
Watch with my eyes.
Good luck,
All right,
74s.
moving on, 63 kilo women. So
63s.
we have 10 lifters. We have 4 lifters above 400 kilos. So we have Shay Zaru, we have Alexandra Bonner, we have Kathleen Beggs, and we have Julianne Tamavong. Hope I pronounced that correctly.
I think you did.
Looks about right.
So we've got Shay, who's actually miles ahead. Best lifts 177, 105, 200. I know that she's actually recently started coaching with Jason Clark. Not recently, maybe about 6 months ago. And I've checked in with her a couple of times to ask how it's been going with Jace. He's a friend of mine, so it's always interesting to see how people enjoy the coaching. and she's only said really positive things. It seems from the way she's posting about her training on her story, that she's in a pretty good headspace with training. It's not like taking over her life and causing her too much stress, which I know it has for her in the past. So it seems like she's in quite a good headspace. She looks very strong. I know Jace holds all of his lifters to a very high standard, as far as depth, as far as pause quality goes, as far as making sure you're locking out correctly on deadlift. So I can't imagine any of those situations arise. So I can't see anyone beating Shay.
I might have seen a low back niggle happening some weeks ago, but recently she's looked like totally over that. Very, very strong across the lower body lifts, and I think she did a bench press PR for rep PR the other day.
Yeah, she did 4.4s at
95.
95. I think that was yesterday, or
Yeah, and she pulled
Monday and pulled my 97.5 after it, or 195,
200, I
or
think.
maybe it was 200.
Yeah, but I've got her
So
stats
she's
here.
looking sensational.
She's looking strong. She's
She was
obviously-
actually second best overall last year as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, super strong.
So she's looking strong, as strong as ever, if not stronger than she has ever been. Obviously she performed well at Worlds last year,
482.5.
so I can't see anyone beating her. But we have a nice little battle between Alexandra and Kathleen for second place. There are only 5 kilos separating them in nominations. And this is one of those lifts where, like I was saying before, we've got one lifter who's really strong on squat and one lifter who's really strong on deadlift.
Yep.
So they're almost not competing for each other for those kilos in either of those disciplines. They're almost like quite separated. So they almost have to play their own day and play to their strengths in that regard. And then it is Kathleen with the bigger deadlift who will have the final say.
Yeah. So Kathleen's third best nominated, and she has a total of 437.5, which was after her best 9 for 9 performance at Effectus Cup. And then this will be Begsy's first ever Open Nationals, so it'll be exciting to see her perform overall, because she is like a very well-polished lifter. The IPF bench rule did take a toll on her in regards to having issues around her shoulder with like bursitis and stuff, because she had to like change her technique to do like more of like a sinky style bench press. But that has been something she's been working on for like the last 6 months, and hopefully we get to see Begsy benching near 90 kilos on the platform, because she only registered a 70 kilo bench at Queensland States, which was 432.
Okay.
So if you put
Oh, wow.
20 kilos on that,
Yeah,
that's pretty
cool.
hard. And then obviously Alex Bonner, she's second best nominated. I've had the pleasure of watching Alex progress linearly over the last few years, and she's going to have her hands full with Kathleen, given that her bench press should be back up there. Alex notably in her last block squatted a huge 180, and she'll be in the race with Shade to squat the most weight on the day. But statistically, Alex in her last 3 competitions has only missed 1 lift, going 26 for 27. And interestingly enough, that is the exact same stat as Kathleen. So it's going to be a very handy stat going to a competition like Open Nationals to have a tight race against each other.
That's really cool. I love when lifters execute and they kind of raise each other's standard and bring the most out of each other. It makes for the best battle. You know, when we always do these predictions and we go, oh, this guy's going to do this girl's going to do this, and you always just expect them to do their best, and like you just expect everyone goes 9 for 9, and you expect that everyone hits these huge numbers, and it rarely ever actually plays out like that.
100%.
But when it does, it's like truly the pinnacle of powerlifting competition itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. And then not to write off Julianne in 4th overall nominated with a 410. She did bench a massive 100 kilos in her last training block, which is pretty hectic at 63. So it'd be good to see her and Shay go back to back on second and last attempts on the 3rd round. But she's definitely in contention, obviously, for 4th. But after that, we've got a pretty big drop off with Rachel Chin, but she registered a total of 372.5. But I know for a fact that I think that total was from South Australia states, because she had a bug, I think, like a gut bug, where she was in hospital the night before she competed at Open
I
Women's.
did see that on TN Story, yeah.
Yeah, so she was in a drip and had it, and obviously bombed out, which was really sad to see, because you see her training, she has a massive pull, and she's so strong. So it'd be great to see her have the day that we know that she is capable of, coached under Alex Foman. And then rounding out the rest of the class, we've got Michaela, Jasmine, Angeline, City, and Annie, ranging between 345 and 302.5.
Yeah, I mean, just to chat on Rachel there for a moment, you know, if you look at what she was opening at in that comp where she bombed, it was 132 by the looks of the open powerlifting here, which is 2.5 above her previous best squat, which was for that total of 372.
Yeah, and that was also dropped from her intended opener.
Righto. So, okay. So you have like a pretty major expected difference if she comes in strong for this competition, which is definitely one to watch and to close that previous what seems to be big gap to the next few up there. So I think that'll be a good one to watch out for.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this class. All right, moving on.
Good luck, 63s.
Gotta take a piss.
Good luck to the 63s. Do you want to have a
See you in a moment.
break? Or no, we'll go without you on 83s because you're not in the 83s, are you? We'll just go without him.
Yes, you want
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the 83 class, Potsy's gone to the bathroom, so should we talk all the shit about him while he's gone?
Yeah.
No? All right, so we have this class is so stacked.
83's
So
hectic.
from, how many is that? From 11 to first is only separated by 37.5 kilos.
That's insane. Yeah.
So we have Matt 697.5, Donovan 700, Kelvin 705, Tyler 707, Aiden 712, Kyle 715, Bren 720, Ian 720, James 722.5, Kana 735, and Jonathan 735. So 11 lifters within 37.5 is like insane depth.
And again, keeping in mind this is open powerlifting totals. The nominations are Canna, James, Ian, I believe, because Jonathan did a little bit less than his best, I think, at that latest nominated total. But yeah, the closeness throughout this top 10 or so, more 11, isn't it?
11,
is insane. And the fact that we're going to see so many battles for various places, I think is going to be a lot of fun. I think that when you look deeper into how the training has gone for a few of these lifters, it starts to spread out a little bit more than what it looks like here. So I'll just start by chatting through the three, because I was sort of looking after checking out this class. So I touched base with Kana, I touched base with James, and I touched base with Ian because they were the top three nominated. And I train with James. I have a pretty good insight into how his prep's been going. So starting with Kana, he was very chill in his response, seemed very confident that John, who has just started coaching him quite recently, has him really well set up to hit really big lifts. He's feeling really healthy, and that's been the approach of the prep, has been to kind of like slow burn things into the meat and make sure that he comes in, consistent, strong, and healthy. I think that's a really great tactic for someone who has, only done 2 competitions, I'm pretty sure. Obviously, he's done a lot of strength training prior to that, so he's, well established as a strength trainee, but being a competitor, he's pretty new to it. But he's been doing exceptionally well. He notably challenged you in Belgrove at the latest state event and narrowly missed out on a 310. How narrow you say it is, I guess up to your discretion.
I don't think it was very close.
Yeah, I don't think it was very close either.
But I remember it was a 20 kilo jump.
It was a 20 kilo jump from 290. So, look, he's put himself in a position to be, definitely the one to watch alongside James, I would say, who's the next one I'll speak about. James' nominated totals, I think, very different to what he's going to be capable of on the day. Again, he's been training a lot out at Breakthrough with me, and he's had an exceptional prep, I have to say. I think that he will come out with big PRs across his squat and deadlift. I think his bench press has been doing fine. Kind of didn't really talk too much about training numbers because he was kind of yet to do some heavy stuff. But
I've seen it.
Cool. Well, is he happy for you to give some insights?
I don't know what he's benched because I haven't been here when he's done his heaviest bench day.
Yep.
He squatted 265 for a triple on Monday, which was really nice, super deep. He looks strong. He looks like he had probably 280 to 285 for a single, which would be 5 to 10 more than he did at States. Like I said, I don't know what he's benched. He pulled 275 for a triple with probably 2 reps in the tank, and he held the last one for like 5 seconds. He's got giant hands, by the way. If you've never noticed, like huge hands. So I would be surprised if he couldn't pull like 305 around there.
It's really cool that he has giant hands.
Yeah, what's he been touching, Hazy?
Well, I'm saying it's like it helps with his grip.
I totally
like,
understand.
Unlike yours, Potty.
Yeah, one of the little midget hands.
So I would be guessing like 280 to 285 on squat, 300 to 305. 300 to 305 on deadlift, I think, is pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
Bench, I think he'll be probably around 175.
Yeah, awesome. That's such a strong day for him, and I'd love to see him hit that. When you look over at James, he squatted 290 this prep, and I was there. He had a few kilos in the tank. It was pretty tough, but he did a really good job. He was to standards. Everything was really nice. On the day, I'd probably back him for 295. His bench, I haven't been watching a lot of his bench because he's been doing it elsewhere, but I think his bench has been fine. Nothing extraordinary, but benching in the middle of the 170s. And then on deads, massive note here, he pulled 3, which, in the past, his deadlift has, been a weaker point. He's been a bit of a subtotal king. And I think that him having this draw card now on the deadlift is going to really help him in a competition against Kana, who is very balanced too. So we're now looking at 2 lifters who are, again, really close across all the 3 lifts. James is going to out squat most likely, and Kana's going to have a slight draw card on the deadlift, which is really fun. My take on what he can do in competition, I think that he's been under Joey Flex for this prep. So, notoriously...
James has?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. So he moved coaches a few months ago. And I think that the training environment at Breakthrough plus that shift has been really good for him. He has had nothing bad to say about his previous coach, but has good things to say about his current coach. And that training process has worked well for him. So whatever has been on program I've seen a good response for him. So I think that he's coming in strong and confident. His sort of personal take when I asked him for sort of insights into his mindset on the prep was, he's like, I've done what I can. He's like, I'm going to go in and put up the numbers I know I can do. And if I get beaten, so be it. That's kind of his mentality. He's
I love that.
not too
so
caught
good.
up. He's not too caught up on the battle. He knows what he can do. And he has also one thing to note with James is he has been taking huge jumps in his training. So he did 260 to 290 on the squat. And he did 260 to 300.
Are you saying last warm up or week to week?
Last warm up.
Holy shit.
And he did 260 to 300.
Did he show his last warm up on the Instagram and be
Yeah,
like,
he
bro,
did.
check
Yeah.
out how fast this was?
So he did
Everyone tag Hazy if you do last warm up.
So he did 260 to 290 on the
I got
squat, I
so
believe,
many.
and he did 260 to 300 on the deadlift, which I think is just worth noting because it's something that shows a massive amount of confidence in your strength and being able to select what you have on the day, which again comes from experience, comes from training experience and running sort of RPE strategies and not being so fixed on small jumps in training to know what number you're going to be hitting. So I've really liked that about his prep. And I think that he is as well equipped as he's ever been to put up a really good package. So I am super excited for what I believe will be the face-off for first place.
I think you've nailed the 1 and 2 here. I think it will be these 2, 1 and 2 in any order. I think where Kana has the advantage is his lifts are so past the standard that there's like literally zero chance he gets any reds for, if for whatever reason the referees in that session are being super, super strict, we could see a few missed squats on depth and one of them won't be Kana, which I think gives him a little bit of an advantage.
Yeah.
But like you said, man, this is going to be neck and neck. Small advantage on squat for James, small advantage on deadlift for Kana, and whoever executes better, whoever lifts better on the actual day will be the one who has the gold medal around the neck.
Yeah. What I would like to see is I'd like to see both of these guys go 9 for 9 and hit insane totals. And that, as we've alluded to, whoever's the strongest on the day wins. Like, that's the peak of powerlifting, as you mentioned, is like we can see that from these two. Not like someone miss a squat and it's just a given and they kind of just cruise through. I'd love to see like 295 and 282, and then like they both go 177 or 75. And then it's like, oh my goodness, like this is all about who's making the right decisions on the pulls. They got to maximize. And then you see Kana come out to load exactly what he needs and it's a grind and he gets it, or it's like he gets so close and he just misses. Like that would be such a good sort of battle to witness.
That's
and I think
exactly
that it
what you
can
want.
go that way.
Yeah.
So I really hope that they stay in their lanes and execute. And I think that they both have coaches and people who are helping them on the day who can help them achieve that. So I believe that Tien's going to be taking care of James, and obviously John will be, who's Kana's coach, will be taking care of Kana, and the plan from Joey and whatnot. So I think that they're in the position to kind of present that kind of day, and that's the kind of day I'd love to see. So I think we have two very relaxed but serious and very capable lifters coming head to head, and that's going to be really fun.
Yeah, I agree.
I think just to play devil's advocate on the previous comment regarding James's prep taking like the 40 kilo jumps. So like my biggest thing is like if I'm doing 40 kilo jumps in training, I'm not taking into consideration the amount of fatigue that you acutely from doing a jump like an attempt in competition. So you'd very rarely see the risk of jumping 40 kilos from an opener to a second or a second to a third, right? So you'd want to be making sure that you're doing in that range around about 15, 17 and a half kilos. So I think a consideration to make is that even though James has been doing these massive jumps and there's these like oozing confidence, at the end of the day, you can't outperform fatigue, especially if it's in an acute form. So I would love to see James do 300 plus, but after doing maybe like a 282, 285 second, like it would be pretty big ask.
Yeah, I actually agree with the deadlift. So I would be quite surprised to see James deadlift 300 on the day.
Yeah, especially after a hard squat. Yeah.
One, the deadlift he hit was a proper max. It was a proper max. He didn't have a kilo. It was the standards, but it was proper max. He didn't squat before it. Straight away, it's going to make an impact. He's noted that his deadlift feels weaker on competition days after he squats. So that's fair.
Could be different with the new coach, though.
Could be different with the new coach. He has been eating volume. Like, he has been eating hard
He's
training
always
volume.
like nines and shit. Like
No, not nines, but he's been eating like a lot of volume. So he's been doing like squat fours at 250, like multiple squat fours at 250, right? Like multiple like deadlift triples at 250, right? So he's been doing hard training. So I think that what you have to also account for, whilst that point is true regarding the acute effects of a second, I think a well-selected second, negligible.
yeah.
And if someone's taking 40, tell me why they wouldn't take 20 or even 25. Why wouldn't you? Just because it's normal or maybe more common to take 15 or 17 doesn't mean that's what James will do. I'm very, very interested to see his comp plan reflective of those things. And I've actually openly encouraged him to have that conversation because James can be somewhat nonchalant in some elements of his training, which I think is his strength because he's casual, relaxed, and he just kind of does it. And he just kind of completes his training and moves on. I think it's a really great attribute. But then the double-edged sword of that is like he might not have that conversation, which again, I've encouraged him, go have that conversation with Joey around comp plan strategy because of what you've been doing in your training.
Yeah, you got to communicate that.
The last point I'll mention with like the fatigue element is that I tend to like the idea of like if someone is under quite a lot of duress in their training regarding like their training fatigue and then they execute a certain top end, you're probably going to trade that with say a taper for the acute fatigue on a competition day. So you can usually expect a pretty similar performance if you account for both those things. So I think that, again, I'd be very surprised if James goes 3 on the deadlift, but love to see it. But I wouldn't be surprised if he goes like 295 on the squat.
Yeah, I think he makes up most of his kilos on his squat.
I think you are right, though, Podsy, is like there's a big difference at the top end when you've done essentially like an extra set in the middle of the 2 warm-ups. And I think that's something that has to be certainly accounted for. But when you pick attempts on the day, you pick it based off what you have left on the second. Like you don't just go, oh, we did 300 in training, therefore we're doing 300 on the platform. You go, okay, we've done 280 before it. Oh, looked maybe a little bit harder than we like. We take 292 or 295. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So having that attempt in the middle gives you better accuracy with picking out how much is left at the end.
100%.
Even though potentially there's a smidge more fatigue.
Yeah, 100%. I think the last point I'll make on the jump side of things is I'm a massive advocate for larger jumps on average. I think that if you have the confidence to do that, which is probably the key point here for me, is going from something like 260 to 290 or 260 to 3 on the dead shows a confidence in taking large jumps. And so I think that it opens you up to possibilities for game day plan where you can really create a runway for yourself on a competition day where you are on average, and you and I talk about this a lot, Alex, lifting less kilos across the day. So if someone who's going plus 15, plus 7, and you're going plus 30, plus 22, right, across squat and deadlift, let's say, there's a huge difference in how hard your average is across the day and how much fatigue you're building up into your deadlifts. I think that's a really important note that if they can actually play to what would be an advantage and a strength, you've done these big jumps, you're actually confident enough, and you know what you've got, make a big jump plan. I think that's actually an important note to make. I think that can be a major difference in outcomes at competitions where things are tight. So about to talk about all these other lifters. The plan for these other lifters particularly and their tussle, I think is going to come down to game day plan because you've got that accumulative fatigue that Potsy's mentioned there about previous attempts. Such a good point. Like really, really important for lifters like him who are going to be tussling for spots in the next rankings in the 83s. Very important point.
And it goes more than just the attempts themselves. It goes all the way down to the warm-ups too.
Yeah.
If your opener's too heavy, your last warm-up's too heavy, your second last warm-up's too heavy. Essentially, doing 2 extra sets across squat and then 2 extra sets across deadlift. Like how much juice are you going to have in the tank for the third deadlift compared to someone who's just keeping themselves fresh.
And again, like this is something that might be considered minutia, but then that minutia becomes really, really important when you're talking about millimeters in a competition that gets exposed, and it comes down to a last pull and like, well, so-and-so's done this, but look how hard their day has been relative to this person. And so now you've got, a big gap where there shouldn't be a big gap.
Yeah.
So look, Kana and James definitely looking like they're front runners. Let's talk about the others. So we have, next ones to speak on would be Jonathan Caruso and Ian Burns. I have spoken to Ian. He is feeling good. He said his prep's gone as well as he could hope it to go. He hit a 732.5 training total last week, I think. And so he has definitely made solid strides with his lifts. He is looking pretty solid across the technical elements. I think that he hit a 295 deadlift, which I don't think was quite to standard if I had to be harsh and honest. However, the 290 in the previous week looked really, really good. So I think that 295 looked very top end, and that exposed, a bit of softness at the lockout, which I think is something that, just needs to be in consideration with the temps. But aside from that, it looks like a very clean lifter, very strong lifter. He's made great strides since his last competition, and I think he's going to do really, really well. Then if you look over at Jonathan Caruso, I don't personally know a lot about Jonathan, but he has put up some really strong days. He has a history with wraps and, other equipment, not raw lifting in, Tesla Federation. But he's put up a 735 with what looks like 270, 195, and 285, if I'm reading this right. So we have a really strong lifter sort of entering the arena here who, I might just add, like, if someone like that is able to put plenty of kilos on their total and we just don't know about it, we might be leaving that person out of conversation with those top two.
Yeah, he might win.
Albeit. But, because we don't have a lot of that data from him in those conversations, he looks like a very strong runner in for that next group.
Yeah, and then I guess after those two, Bren, Kyle, Aiden is they're probably the three who I'm looking at. And like we've said before, there's how many kilos between?
I mean, let's include Tyler and
and-
Kelvin in that too. But I mean, again, the lower you go, it's also close. So look, I don't want to discount
between
anyone.
Fourth and ninth, we've got 15 kilo spread.
Yeah. So I mean, all those people I think we listed them before. So all those people we've already listed, where we're sort of saying, okay, like this is going to be.
I don't want to go into each individual person.
No, I don't think I need to.
Particularly, don't want to talk about this guy over here.
Why don't we talk about him?
But like we said, if you go 9 for 9, and I'm looking right past you, Potsy. If you go 9 for 9 and you put yourself in a position to be as high as you can, that's all you can really do. If you chase and you miss lifts early, you're kind of on the back foot and you've got no chance at the podium. The best way for you to get on the podium, any of these next guys, is to go 9 for 9 and hope that the others make mistakes, really, because the maths and the data tells us that at these high level competitions, people make errors, whether it's picking weights that are too heavy or whether it's not executing, whatever it is, whether it's people's grip going.
Yeah. The only thing that also.
He's not looking at me. He's so salty.
The only thing I'll kind of add to that conversation without going into anyone in particular is looking at all these names, Brand, Kyle, Aiden, Tyler, Kelvin, right? I don't know Donovan very well, but all of those lifters I've just listed, I know their training's gone very well, right? So that is so good because you have this situation where it looks close and all their training's gone really well. It's going to be very, very close, and it's going to come down to decisions and all those various things that you just said. And I think that what we're going to find out is, you mentioned this before, the strongest lifter doesn't always win, but the best lifter does. So we're going to find out who's the best lifter in this group.
Who's actually the best?
Who's the best? Yeah, you're all strong.
And we'll find out with Kana and James too.
We will. We have a very strong weight class, and it goes for all the weight classes, but this is probably the deepest, most packed in weight class. We're going to find out who are the best coaches, who are the best lifters, who makes the best decisions. We know they're all strong. We can see this here. But we're going to find out those things. I think that's going to be really fun.
Yeah, it's really exciting when, and we saw this with males at Sheffield in particular, because the margins were so small between, 10th and 1st. Because the world records are so high in Sheffield that, one or two missed or made lifts here or there 5 kilos between two lifters who are in the same weight class when the difference between second and fifth.
Yep.
And we'll see that here as well. Like,
Big time.
You make one mistake, you're finishing 10th.
We could have
You
a
make
bunch
two
of
mistakes, you know what I mean?
we could have a bunch of tied totals, like all
yeah,
the way down. Like,
absolutely.
there'd
And
be
there
a lot
could
of that.
be, when we get to final deadlifts, there could be like the coach could have 5 options. Like it could be like, do you take 302 for fifth, 305 for fourth,
Yeah.
310 for third?
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
like all of these decisions to make at the end, and it really tests the coach when it's more than just a 1-for-1. When it's a 1-for-1, it's very easy. It's like, hey, what number is it?
Yes.
Here it is. When it's a decision tree that is just ballooning with everything that happens, it really does test the coach's ability to make quick decisions.
100%. And I think it also comes back to how well is that coach reading what's left, because that's what it comes back to. When you have a decision to make, as you sort of alluded to there, of, oh, I've locked this placing in and this is what it requires for the win, YOLO, let's go. That's the easiest decision in the
Easy.
world. Same as
Also the most fun because there's no
loss.
There's no downside.
Exactly. Whereas I think that what it comes back to is this raw, how many kilos does my lifter have based on my knowledge of them? Because that's all that matters. You're going to have to make that pull to secure a placing, whatever that placing might be. And it doesn't matter at all if you could pull more for more if you don't have it. And it would suck if you pulled less for a lower placing and you had more. So these are going to be really fun. Like we see it all the time. Someone comes out, they pull for third, and it was 5 kilos more for second, and they crush their lift, and they could have gone for second. We see that a lot. We're going to see probably some of that here, where someone comes out, they're like, oh, damn, like I had 7 more kilos there. I could have gone for 2 more placings. Or someone who's just a gram too much, and they lose 4 placings.
Or
something
someone
like
who
that.
goes from fifth and tries to get to second, and they miss by a tiny bit, but
They end up
2.5
with
kilos
ninth.
left would have given them second.
Yeah, and they end up with 9th or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, exactly.
It's it's going to be really fun to see. Also to see some of the chicanery going on with the the bluff attempts, the fake attempts, of this and that,
Yeah.
which I love. Hopefully you two are both around it.
Yeah.
I'll actually be commentating this session, so I'm keen for this. I think that's probably the 83s done. I reckon we should do 30 minutes on the 83s.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we also got through it pretty quickly. It's just
Yeah.
such a deep class to talk about. So, yeah, we'll kick on there.
Moving on, 69s.
Good luck, 83s.
So 69 class. Essentially, there's 4 lifters who could get on the podium here, and then quite a big drop off after 4th. So we've got Hannah Altman, we've got Caitlin Artia, Vivian Nguyen, and Ebony Gray. And I think in particular, the top 3 are kind of almost locked in as the top 3. And what's really fun about this class is that the top 3 all have very, very different strengths, and each one of them has like one lift that is particularly like their strength, their calling card. So Vivian, huge squatter. She squatted 182.5 in competition. I know she's done 185 in training, looking like she could probably do a little bit more as well, which is really cool. So she'll have the opportunity to chip there and perhaps get a little bit of an extra advantage on squat. I know Hannah will be miles ahead of the others on the bench press. Her best bench in competition is 115. So she'll have the chance there to chip. She'll have the chance there to potentially get a chip back from Vivian, or get a chip as an advantage for later. And then there's Kate, who I coach, who has an enormous deadlift, and the same thing that I said about Vivian and Hannah's squat and bench press, the same thing applies there to her deadlift. Potts, what can you tell me on these 3?
I know Hannah is under a new coach. Not sure who it is actually, but she's been training at a 0 now, and hopefully she can put up a performance that reflects what she did at the Hunter Showdown last year.
Was she in the 69 then, or was she in the 76 then?
69 then,
Okay.
yeah. So at the Hunter Showdown, she did 470 at 68.8. But then at Queensland States, I'm not sure. She just wasn't her usual self, like in regards to confidence. Just went 1 from 3 on squats, and it kind of just molded into the rest of the day, playing out the rest of her attempts, going 6 from 6 on the back end of the 2/3. So it'll be good to see her around that 470 mark. But if she kind of like turns up and has a similar-ish day to how Queensland State's reflected, and I know she's been under a lot of stress given that I'm pretty sure she's doing a PhD or something, but she's very busy. But hopefully she's been fixated on training for at least the last couple months, because hot on her heels is obviously Caitlin, who we know is going to be in contention given the statistics of her last 3 competitions. And then also Vivian as well. If she puts together a massive squat, like 185 is almost like a certainty. Any more is a bonus. Having her, I guess, in the race as well would be amazing. But
Yeah. So Vivian and Kate went head to head at States. They actually achieved the same total. Kate won on body weight at the end.
that was probably the best battle
with
of
a
the weekend.
205 deadlift, and it was a really fun battle. Vivian did miss a squat, so there is a little bit of room there. Kate went 9 for 9, so Kate, executed better and was able to win right at the end there. Probably had a little bit of extra left in the deadlift. Had Vivian actually made her final squat, we would have loaded it. But like I said before, this one's really interesting because, we've got one lifter who's miles ahead on squat, one lifter who's miles ahead on bench, and one lifter who's miles ahead on deadlift. So it's almost like they have to gain the amount of kilos they can in their respective strength lifts to propel the total and give them all a chance. So that's really fun.
Yeah.
Ebony is nominated fourth with 437.5, and like we said before, if one of the girls in the top 3 nominations here does have a slip up, have a bad day, miss execute, maybe even bomb, maybe even miss weight, she'll be right there to nip on their heels to get on the podium.
Yep, for sure. And then honourable mentions to Alicia, Caitlin, Amanda, Chloe, and Steph. A big chunk from WA who are coming over to compete in that bottom sort of half of the pool. But it was good to see everyone have a really good day. I'm looking forward to that battle for right from first all the way down to fourth. It's going to be tight.
Yeah. I think the winner of this class will be the one who goes 9 for 9.
Yeah.
And I think the total ends up around 470.
Yep.
Which is really awesome.
And as we said, it may be tighter than we think given Hannah's most recent competition. I reckon it could be literally a battle for the top 3.
Yeah, Hannah's most recent was 452.5, and the other two's most recent was 450.
Yeah.
I know that Vivian did 452.5 in training last week.
Yeah.
And I know she's doing a little bit more again this week.
Yeah.
Kate did, I believe, 455 last week. She's got her final squat and bench coming up tomorrow and the next day.
Yep.
So she could be in the around about 460 for this week. And we would expect around that or a little bit more on the day.
What has Kate been deadlifting?
She deadlifted 215 last week.
Damn.
It was not quite to standard.
Oh, yep.
Couldn't quite hold it at the top.
Yep.
So I think that's probably the top end.
Yep.
Maybe a smidge less.
Yep.
She did 207 the week before and it was really nice.
Yep.
So perhaps there's just some fatigue there.
Yep.
She always deadlifts well in comp. She has never missed a deadlift since I've started coaching her, which I think is 5 competitions.
It's credit to you, mate.
Yeah, no, not at all. She's the one doing it.
Gangster, yeah.
She's such a gangster. Like she just super.
She's
super
a doctor too.
Super quiet. Yeah, she's a doctor. She's super quiet. She's super reserved. She's so lovely. She talks to everyone, and then when it's time to deadlift and flick that switch, she flicks it and she gets fired up, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, wow.
So yeah, she's made nice progress on squat and bench as well, which is nice. So we can grab a few kilos there, and then we'll just be sitting back waiting and seeing what we need at the end.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it looks like a very exciting weight class. And I think, like what you mentioned there, Potsy, you kind of have these 2 sections of the weight class who are going to battle within themselves. And I think that's important to recognize that we have this, 1, 2, 3, with also like a 4th there who's going to potentially vie for placings. Will definitely vie for placings. And then you have this other section of lifters who are going to be fighting for that next one, and they're all pretty tightly packed. So I think that's really exciting and something to recognize as well, that at Nats you have these kind of like battles that go on at various levels, and they're all really fun to watch in their own right.
Yeah. So like we said, the best lifter here will win. The one who executes. I don't think you win with less than eight weight lifts here.
I think that's been the essence of the chat today. Has kind of been this idea of like strongest lifter versus best lifter. So I think we're going to see that unfold here, just like many other weight classes.
Yeah. It's a very different looking category to last year, because last year, like the top 3 that won, Kelly Fagan. Actually, no, Kelly bombed.
Kelly bombed. She bombed. So
yeah, well,
Brittany won, I think.
Caitlin Barracuda.
Caitlin was second and Hannah was third.
That's not how you say her last name. And yeah, Hannah was third. But Brittany Romas obviously was in there. And
Brittany's gone up to 76.
Viola Jakuta, she's not there anymore. Shania's gone up. My girl Esperance isn't coming down either. So it's a very different looking 69 kilo class. And
Viola as well. She's disappeared. Doing reality
she's on
TV.
Survivor and shit, yeah. But yeah, like I said, very different 69 kilo class, which is exciting to see that like the growth of like the people coming through who I see at the bottom of this, I guess, like score from last nationals to where they are now is really exciting.
So the winner of 22 APU Nats did 467.5, and I remember at the time because I think Kate totaled 433.
She
is that right?
did 428.
428, yeah.
Yeah.
So I remember thinking 467.5 was like miles away for Kate, and here we are 18 months later, and we're there. We're going to be knocking on the door of that number, which I think is really cool.
Yep. Definitely.
Cool. So moving on to the 93s, we've got actually a similar little
Good luck,
break-
69s.
Good luck,
Yeah,
69s. Sorry, every single time you're going to say that. Moving on to the 93s, we've got a similar top of this class to we do with the 69s, where it's a top 4 and then quite a big drop off. So in this instance, we've got Adam Jones, who's miles ahead
Head and shoulders over, yeah.
on best total, with 786 is his best total, followed by Ewan 755, Jesse 752.5, and Dean 750. So only 5 kilos separating 2 and 4 there, which is really cool. Adam's training has been, it looks like quite good. I know he's been dealing with a bit of a hip issue, which has limited his depth on his squats. So I think he's been deliberately squatting high to manage that.
Yep.
So as long as he can sink them on the day, that's squats obviously his strength, and his deadlift as well. But squats a huge strength of his, and if he can sort of get near his best of 310, I can't see anyone catching him.
I think he did 310 as a really light 105, didn't he?
No, I think he did it. No, I think he competed at 93 in that.
We'll check that.
Was
We'll check that.
APU
But yeah,
States.
310. No, it was
310 at 96.9.
Oh, okay, so he didn't cut for that one.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So
Sorry.
his best in the class is 301.
Okay.
But 310 not much heavier. So you could expect anywhere from 3 to 310 from him, which is huge.
I think if he does squat around 300 or more, I can't see any of these other guys catching him, just because that deadlift is so big.
I agree. I agree.
We've got Ewan moving up from the 83s, which
About time.
I've got mixed feelings on this, and I'll tell you why. Because if he was in the 83s, it just makes it even more stacked. Which would have been so sick to have another guy vying for the podium. And having potentially a full podium of guys doing 765, 770. That would have been crazy. But I love it because I think he's always supposed to be a 93. I think he should have always been a 93. He squatted 300 at Worlds as a sub-junior 5 years ago, however long ago that was, and sort of hasn't really progressed his best lift. And I think a lot of that is because of the constant cutting down. So we could see something crazy from Ewan in the next couple of years, particularly on the squat. We could probably see like 320 or 330 on the squat in the next couple of years, which is really cool. I don't think he's quite up to Adam's standard yet, but I think another year or two, I think he'll be right there. And I think it will be, again, another one of those situations where we've got someone nipping on the heels of the person at the top, forcing the person at the top to be even better. And I think these two plus Jesse and Dean could push everyone all the way up, and we could have, all 4 of them could be in the 780, 790 range in 2 years, which was really cool.
I'm really interested to see how Ewan goes, in this particular competition, because I can agree that there's potential for him to really blow up, particularly on the squat in the coming years on 93. How much will that help him at this particular competition? Because you have Jesse, you have Dean, who are right there, and you also have that deadlift draw cut on him. So, we've seen some competitions from Ewan where he's had bad depth issues. Obviously, you would think you work on that, and hopefully he comes in with excellent depth and no issues there. Does he squat 3? Does he squat 320? Like, this is a question you have to ask about, what is he capable of at this particular comp? Because I think he's squatted 320 in training.
He has.
And he would have been, somewhere in the realms of 90s, I guess.
I don't think that one was to depth. I would project somewhere in between 3 and 320. It's 310, 312.
Big range.
But he also will have the opportunity to take a chip there as well.
Totally.
So he could get a little extra advantage. When we're talking about, Jesse maybe needing 307 or 308, like it's not a huge difference there. So maybe it won't matter.
But will Jesse have the chip advantage?
No, he won't. It'll be
because
307 or 310.
You have Adam and you have Dean who...
Yeah, no, you're right. So yeah, I don't know how useful that chip is in this instance.
Yeah.
But Ewan could definitely he could definitely get on the podium. He could also come fourth.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I'm getting at. Is like I don't have a good grasp on how his training's been going. He hasn't posted a ton of his training.
He never really has.
So I think as well, like it's to recognize the 755 he did was extraordinary. He was in the 83s. So this is a super strong guy.
He also missed a squat as well.
Right? This is a super strong guy. So I think that credit also where it's due that if he has had a tremendous prep and gets a really good boost out of the weight class change, I don't think he beats Adam, but I think that he could get closer than we're kind of anticipating if he has that kind of day. And I'd love to see that. If he doesn't and he goes more around where he's been and he kind of has a slower start going into the weight class, I'm pretty keen to see this sort of trio battle out for second.
Yeah.
Dean, I don't know a lot about Dean.
Yeah.
But 330
Yeah.
on the deadlift, man?
Craziness.
Like, and I know he went 275 and missed 290 on his squat at his latest meet. So we're talking about a strong squatter, strong deadlifter. He loses quite a lot on the bench press compared to his competitors. Don't know much about that, do you, Potsy?
No. Yeah.
But hey, 330, I think that, if I had to choose between getting an extension on my arms or a reduction, I'd get the extension. All right.
Big time.
You
We're talking about arms here?
Arms.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just the normal anatomical arms. So, I think that we have a really interesting battle going on here where we have, again, varying strengths, but again, a very clear close the door or final call situation from Dean there with such a big deadlift, because he's not really, in my opinion, talking about looking at Adam. He's got that contest for second.
Yes.
So, someone like Dean coming in and putting up what he can on the subtotal and sort of just checking out how things go, I think is a really good move, because then you have Jesse and Ewan who may well be, battling a little bit harder in the subtotal, in terms of like the mentality. So I'll be really keen to see how that plays out. Obviously, giving credit to each lifter where it's due. I know Jesse has had a really strong prep. He's had a really good prep.
He's looked great.
Quality's been there. I think there was some pulls throughout prep that looked maybe a little bit soft at knees and things like that. But it does look like they've touched that up a little bit and improved that. So I think that he's going to come in with a really good quality across his lifts. And again, like very balanced in terms of his strengths. He's not really got any major deficits there. So the thing I like about that, and I think there's an advantage about being balanced, is that you're not relying on having a particularly good day on any one lift. You can come in and have just a good day on average, and you're going to put up a good total on average, right? So I think that's the position that Jesse's in compared to, say, Dean, where, let's just be devil's advocate. Dean has a bad deadlift day. It's not happening, right?
Yeah.
So
and Ewan has a bad squat day.
Exactly right. So I think that if you had to sort of bet on, the likelihood between these three, I'd be saying that on average, Jesse has a really good chance there. However, that if either of those two are having exceptional days on their lift, they could easily shut the door on that. That's kind of my take on these three.
The other thing there with Jesse is, if you look at his open powerlifting, he's progressed every meet. Even the Nationals 2022, where he only made one squat because he had some depth issues, questionable refereeing for sure, but he even still added to his total that day. So I would expect to see something in the 760s from Jesse. It's kind of always been plus 10 to plus 15 every single time.
Yep.
I expect that again. And like you said, he's very well rounded and he's very good at executing. He always makes lifts. He's always 8 or 9 for 9.
Yep.
Which I think is obviously really important in a competition like this. I expect to see Ewan ahead of everyone on subtotal, and then I actually expect him to fall to fourth. That would be my guess, would be Ewan's fourth. And I would guess that Jesse puts himself in second on his final deadlift, and then Dean either makes or misses for the silver.
I'm looking at his Instagram.
That's kind of what I'm projecting there.
He is effing strong, but just doesn't lift to the comp standard. So hopefully he pulls it together for what he's capable of.
Did I see a 300 double sky high from him or something
300
like
double,
that?
280 for 5 on squat.
Yeah.
340 single on deadlift. He trains on a deadlift bar by the looks of it with bumpers.
Right.
But like the fact that you got someone sitting there with
Good on him.
so much talent.
Good on him.
Just cowabunga lifting.
Yeah,
what a guy.
literally.
What a guy. I love that.
He could easily be in contention for.
And he looks
second.
like we got NA here on his comp day coach, so we don't even know who's going to be looking after him at this point.
Yeah.
Cool. So I mean, power to you, man. Like I said, Dean wasn't on my radar.
Yeah.
I love that he's in there with a 330 pull posted, and all the things that we just noted about, like He's doing some what we call cowbunga lifting. Like he's just getting after it. He's strong. And it's going to be like super interesting to see how he turns up on the day. And I think it's going to be a very exciting lifter to watch against someone like Jesse. Clinical, makes lifts, always to competition standards. We know who his coach is. We know that TN runs good comp plans and makes good decisions on the day. And we got, Ewan new to the weight class. Matty Hancock's going to be taking care of him, does an excellent job. He would have prepped well. As long as he makes depth on his squats, going to be a formidable competitor. So this is going to be a fun weight class to watch as well.
All right, I'm going to let you guys kick off the 76ers. I'm going to run to the bathroom.
Easy.
Beautiful.
All right, so the start of 76ers, we have quite a big separation between first and second place. We had a late withdrawal from Isabella von Weisenberg. She was going to be in contention for that first spot position alongside Brittany, and it would have been awesome to see them two go head-to-head because it's been, maybe 3-4 years since we've seen Isabella at Worlds.
Yeah.
And it would have been the first time in Australian colours since she's obviously moved here. So, unfortunately, we won't see Isabella, but hopefully next year we can see her come back to the platform.
Yeah, I'd love to see Isabella back into it, for sure.
Anyway, talking about the ones that are competing. So, third overall nominated, we have Hayley Hill. She is nominated at 442.5.
Yep. In
second place, we have Shania Radke. She is nominated a total of 452.5. And then overall, by 42.5 kilos, is Brittany Romas.
Yeah, so it's looking like a little bit of a battle for second here.
Yeah.
And Shania actually recognised that when I messaged her, so I actually messaged the top three here. Brittany pretty much said, look, she's had a busy work schedule with long hours, so she's undergone some training changes, but she's fully expecting to extend all of her PRs. So she's expecting a good day across squat, bench, and deadlift, which is awesome to hear. Shania, she made improvements across the board. She's got really good momentum right now. She notably squatted 150 for 4 and deadlifted 180 for 4. I remember that, I think it was 200 at States.
That was hectic.
That she pulled. That was gangster. That
202 at States, then 200 at Newcastle Barbell.
Yeah, barbell. Yeah, Newcastle barbell. That was awesome. And I think that that's going to be really cool to see her amongst these other two lifters going at it. Her goal is to hit the world qualifying total. I think that's really smart because she's recognized that she's not going to contest Brittany, but there's always one weight class that takes an extra candidate to Worlds. So going for that second place and getting that world qualifying total, I think is a really smart move there.
What's the qualifying total?
Great question. I'll quickly look it up.
QT team, Alex Hayes. Is that you?
That's
No,
me.
that's Matt.
me.
That's Matty.
Well, it's both of us. But yeah, I actually don't remember them all off by heart, so I'll just actually look it up.
No, you're right. I can keep
moving on
rambling.
to
Jacob
quickly.
actually did the international, so we don't.
Yeah, moving on to Hayley. She has PR'd all 3 lifts in prep, even though she broke her toe 4 weeks out.
Oofed.
She's keeping her numbers to herself.
That's good. I
Good
rate
for
that.
her.
If you guys keep chatting on it, I'll just look up this world qualifying total.
No,
So,
yeah, well, I just want to give Trump to
You go.
Shania
Yeah,
because last year she was obviously a 69, and if I'm looking at the results quickly, she came 6th overall. So for her to be in this position now, where last year she did 407.5 to now 452, north of that potentially, is a massive feat to just taking the commitment to go up a weight class.
76ers is 477.5 world standard.
Okay, that's big.
But
But
big jump for her.
it is, but I think she's good for it. I think her squat, knowing that she has what she could have done at States, an extra 5 to 7.5 kilos, knowing that she can bench 85 pretty much any day of the week.
She did 90 recently, just the
Did
other
she?
day. Yeah,
Look,
just the other day.
I think that, she did. I think that her training's going super well.
Yeah.
She's hitting rep PRs. She's gone up a weight class. All the momentum's on her side. But 25 kilos. 25 kilos. It's a big ask. She would agree. So I think that it'll be awesome to see her hit that. I'd love to see her hit that. And I would dare say going 20 plus 25 when you're already 10 ahead of the next best would secure second.
Yes.
You would think.
Yes.
In saying that, Hayley seemed quietly confident. She's PR'd her lifts. She's going to do better than 442. How much better? We'll see. And does Shania reach for the world standard and miss and potentially give up that second place? There's always a risk in that. So I'm very keen to see that play out.
I think she can say that she's going for the world standard, but I think once the competition actually starts, the competition is the competition.
Agreed.
And she'll be trying to come second. Or, if something happens to Brittany, perhaps first.
Agreed.
I think that hitting that world qualifying total is a nice goal, but I also think that having a great day and coming second is probably a better goal. And I
It's
think
not the
that
priority item.
I think
Yeah.
that once the competition actually starts, that things will actually probably shift that way because that's what competitive people do.
Yeah.
They make sure that they win.
I
And I know Shania's got some fucking dog about her,
yeah, she does.
and she's gonna want
a
to
mongrel.
make sure she beats Haley.
Yeah, bro, 100%.
And I can't see her foregoing
100%.
second place.
If
to-
it's like,
to do
hey,
that.
if it's like, hey, she's close enough to you that we go plus 15 or 17 for the world standard and second if you get it, or plus 10 to like boot like Haley out, you know, and close the door on her for second, right? For sure, that's a decision. And I think that athlete is going to say, let's shut the door, you know? So I think that would be the decision that would strip her from having the liberty and the freedom to go for that total because she's having to go for less to secure the second.
I agree.
That's the kind of situation
Yeah,
that,
completely
and
agree.
that's the kind of situation I would expect to unfold because also Haley is going to come in and try to pull something big to put that pressure on, you know, and maybe get ahead on that third, right? Before Shania then goes for her third. So if we see that, we're going to see an interesting decision unfold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So not a whole lot notable after those three. Perhaps we could see, you know, two lifters who are just below 400 of their best totals crack past that, which is really cool.
Yep. And again, like credit there where they're going to be tussling for that as well. So you got 397, 392 from Rochelle and Gabby. And that's going to be really good to see how they go. And then even below there where we have Bridget and Faith, 377, 355, they're going to be tussling so you can come out on top there. So again, the multi-level contest, I think it's really important to recognize that because everyone's going to nationals to kind of like climb up their own individual rankings. So I think this class is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Cool. Let's move on to the 105s. Good luck,
Good luck
76.
76ers.
Got in there. All right. This one is
105?
really fun. 105. This
I love a big boy.
This is
especially
really,
a big, strong
really
boy.
fun. Lottie loves a big, strong boy.
Yeah.
We've got three guys who have kind of separated themselves from the pack, which I think is really cool because they're almost, you know, if they make 6 lifts each, they're on the podium, you know, or 7 lifts each, they're on the podium. So there's no real like risk of anyone else sort of getting there that they can kind of worry about what the other two are doing, which I think is really cool. So we've got Yanni and Michael Rand, who both have 822.5 best totals. Michael beat Yanni on his final deadlift to win on bodyweight at state championships. And then Tom Chaplin, 807.5. And I know for sure he tried to deadlift to beat both of them, even though they were doing a different competition.
323 he tried for
Yeah, he tried-
823?
He tried 323 for 823 to beat them both by half a kilo.
And I don't think I've seen a closer
It was
deadlift, even some of yours.
I was there live.
Very, very close.
And man,
So these three really are like neck and neck and neck.
I'd be interested to hear your boys'
which I
thoughts.
think
And
is
then
really cool.
I'd be interested to hear your boys' thoughts because I've also chatted with all three of them and got 3 quite different responses that I'll talk through. I'd love to hear your thoughts
so
on this.
3 very different dudes, personality-wise, like extremely different dudes.
Actually, you couldn't be
Mi-
couldn't be more different. These
Michael
guys.
Rand is the most chill competitor I've ever met in my life. I coached him at APU 22 Nats, and I was like, "What do you need from me?" He's like, "Nothing." And I'm like, "Cool."
And I coached him at States.
And he literally just sits. He actually just stands in a spot. Doesn't even sit down. He just stands in a spot
he's
with no,
clapped out at
with no headphones. He doesn't have caffeine. He just sits there, no ammonia. Just puts some chalk on his hands and off he goes.
I call him Farm Boy Strong.
He really is. He doesn't He doesn't look like he'd total 840, but he will.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And then you got Chapo, who's more of a kind of jock, more of like a kind of footy player type of energy. Like he's real competitive. He gets after. He's
If
a bit more-
we
more-
had like NRL has like hottest top 100, and we had like the hottest top
hot,
100.
APA's hot,
Yeah,
hottest 100.
Tom Chaplin
He'd
is
be up there.
close
tanned.
close first with Matty
He's
Bartholomew.
He's
tanned.
bloody top of my list. Tell you what.
he's tan and he's jacked and his
Big
legs are
rump on him
You
huge.
know
as
what?
well.
Every time I see Tom, I just go, damn.
Yeah,
I literally look at him and anyone I'm near, I just go, look at that guy.
he's so thick.
Yeah, legit, man.
He's
And I
pu-
go up to him over last time I saw him, I was like, bro, you look like a rhino.
And
You
he's
just
trying to
like,
get
he's
in
got
the
the
net as
haircut.
well. Like he's pretty smart. So like it's a full package.
He's got it all. So yeah, so he's kind
Love
of
you,
like
Steph.
he's kind of like the jock. Tom's kind of like the jock, like, you know, dates the head cheerleader type of dude.
He's the
like real
quarterback.
competitive,
He's the
like
quarterback,
alpha
yeah.
male. And then you got Yanni, who's a little bit more introverted, but he gets real psyched up during comps.
Yeah.
He kind of keeps to himself though.
Has a lot of heart.
He's all it's all internal. He internalizes a lot of it. He's very, very, very invested in the outcome and like
dialed in.
extremely emotional about it all.
He's dialed
It's
the hell
dialed in.
Yeah.
But it's like I said, it's all internal.
It's
and
going to
he
be
kind
so
of
good to see all
keeps to
three of
himself.
them. It's going to be like a roller coaster.
So
Every
the,
single
the
one.
three of them interacting with each other, and
Yeah.
then obviously, it's powerlifting. We don't run and push each other out of the way to get to the bar first. You're lifting individually, but it's going to be very, very fun to see how each of them respond to the competition when the opportunity arises.
Yep.
And I'm really looking forward to it. So Yanni has the advantage in squat by a smidge. Even though Michael and Tom are both progressing their squat really well, they'll all be over 300, probably all over 305. Maddie, what do you think about the squatting?
Yeah, from the squatting standpoint, I think that starting with Yanni, the weight class change has definitely had massive effects on his squat. Important to note, he's coming to the end of that time of kind of growing into the weight class now at the same rate. So you would expect that to sort of temper off a little bit.
We've seen that particularly on the bench press, like the bench shot up.
Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
kind of just
It has
stalled.
held a little bit. I'm not sure the later parts of prep, but I mean, I was seeing him a little bit at breakthrough from time to time, and I know that he was still sitting around a similar spot, which again, very strong bench press, but it hasn't continued to move at the same rate. I'll be very interested to see if we see a similar thing happen in the squats where we see a modest improvement or whether we see another bonkers improvement. And I think that is what's going to change the game for Yanni the most, is going to be how that squat shows up, because of what influences his total the most at the moment is the fact that he's moved that weight class. In saying that, I think Michael is that iron sharpens iron concept, where Michael has really progressed his squat nicely, both from a qualitative and quantitative standpoint, where his squat's looking better and it's stronger. And when he hit that 305 at States when I was coaching him, he looked like he had room. And if he can take that room, I think that's going to put him in extremely strong stead because of how big his pull is. Moving on to Tom, he had a average performance with his squat at the latest comp because he was cutting weight during that prep. And he hit a 300, but it was pretty hard and it was pretty lackluster for his standards. I know he's given me those insights. Whereas this prep, he's managed his weight a lot better. And I will say his squat has looked extraordinary relative to previous preps. He hit a 280. I thought that was unbelievable. His 290 was also very solid.
So you're telling me he looks even better in the budgies?
He looks even better, man. Damn. But his squat his squat, don't distract me, bro. His squat is looking particularly strong for him. So I think that I imagine that Yanni will squat the most, that Tom will squat the second most, and that Michael will squat the least by a small margin to Tom. That's how I see the squats going. I'll quickly tangent over to the chats I've had with these guys, and then we'll continue. So starting with Yanni, Yanni is kind of like the newcomer here. Well, he very much is. He's the youngest. He's got the sort of least comps under his belt, I believe. Michael and Tom have gone at it before. So it's a very exciting opportunity for him. And the insights I got from him were kind of echoing that he was feeling that, he's feeling some pressure. And he has said it's got to him at points, but he's feeling like he's on top of that. And he's ready to rise to the challenge, ready to sort of fight for the total, for the title, so to speak. He hasn't given me a lot of insights on the numbers. He said, quote, 300 squat and 300 deadlift, feeling casual now. What did that mean? I don't really know. He has looked good. He did note that he's going to be putting a reel out this week. So he is going to be making his numbers known, which I love, because I think that will actually work to his advantage regarding intimidating and really giving him a strong position and putting himself as a front runner, which I think he is a front runner. So I think it's going to be great. Michael, he was pretty straight up and down about it. He said he thinks he'll win. And he said he thinks he'll win by either tying or being by 0.5 Yanni's total on the last deadlift. Yep. He said that's the way I think it will go. And he said that he thinks that Tom will total in the 820s. Yanni didn't mention anything about Tom. He was clearly focused on Michael. And that's very interesting because Tom's response was kind of reflective of that indication where, he said he's had a really different prep to States. He's at weight. All his volume and secondary work is much stronger. He hit 290, 197, 295, and then I recently saw an incredibly easy 310 from him on the deadlift too. He said this prep has really reaffirmed his why, so he's really like feeling that kind of dog mentality and getting after it, and he's connected to why he loves powerlifting and why he's even at nationals. He said his intent is to win and nothing less, and he doesn't want anyone to think this is just a two-horse race. To my awareness. The other competitors think it's a 2-horse race. A lot of people I've spoken to think it's a 2-horse race. At one point, I was even in that sort of line of thinking. But the more I've looked at his training and the more I've looked at the possibilities, what I've liked to do is put a sort of circumstance out there where I go, hey, if 2 of the other competitors do well and 1 does exceptionally well, could they win? And I can say yes about all 3 of those. You know, the only one where I change my mind a little bit is if Michael has a good to great day, I think that even excellent days from the other 2 is not a win against Michael. So that's the only exception, is Michael has kind of got that slight lead in my mind where he is my favorite because he has that big deadlift to shut the door. He has that experience and he is, you know, someone who has a consistency in his strength. It's kind of like that farm boy strong that I mentioned, is like what that sort of means is like that guy just like slings hay bales and he's just strong. And it doesn't really take like a particular strategy to get 99% of that out of him. He's always going to show up with that. And I can say the same thing to some degree about the other 2, but not to the same degree. So that's some insights from the 3. You can see those responses are quite different. Yanni's feeling, you know, excited. He's got that pressure of being that, you know, newcomer, and he's very talented. You've got Michael, who's been there for a long time as a 105, really long time. Back in PA days, he's been this strong and, you know, close to this strong for a long time. So he's very consistent. And then you got Chapo, who feels underrated and he's got something to prove. Love it.
Yeah, it's a really cool class. I echo your sentiments on Michael being the only one who I think can win on an okay day. I do think Michael will win. I do think Yanni is right that I do think Michael is right in saying that he will win on his final deadlift and just do whatever he needs to, you know, win on bodyweight or win by half a kilo. What I think will be interesting is if Tom decides to pull for the win or decides to pull for the lead, or if he decides to pull to be in front of Yanni. That will be very interesting to me. I think Tom will be in 3rd place after 2 deadlifts, and I think he'll have the choice to go for 2nd or put himself in 1st and make Michael beat him. And that's what I'm interested in. And if Tom does decide to put him himself and Michael has a blunder, Tom could win. If Tom tries to pull to go ahead of Michael and he misses, Yanni goes back into 1st, and then maybe Michael has a blunder and Yanni wins. But because Michael goes last, I think he's the best chance to win. I can see any of them winning. I can see any of them being in the podium in any order, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
I'm more excited to just see how it plays out and see how they each handle the pressure when there is a big moment in the competition, because powerlifting comps are won in moments. It happens, you know, it's potentially a 3rd squat or a 3rd bench or a deadlift right at the end of the competition. And there's this one little moment where they either make the lift or they don't make the lift. And that's when you really separate the good lifters from the great lifters. And I'm excited to see how these 3, because I think these 3 are all great lifters. I'm excited to see how these 3 handle those particular moments.
Love that.
For sure.
All right.
Spots?
Hey?
Any thoughts there?
No, I'm keen to see my man Sam Forsberg rip in.
Yeah, I think we're going to talk about
I
these other
wrote
guys
him
as
down
well.
as a schmucky.
Yeah, smoky.
So I think, like to kind of go out. So we've got the podium there. That's going to be epic. Like many of the classes, it's going to come down to decisions and moments. I think that's a really good point. That you're going to see some defining moments, you know, at some point in this competition for those 105 guys. Moving on, we have Daniel, Murdad, Samuel, and Taj, who are between 770 and 740 of the totals we have in front of us here. That's going to be really interesting. Daniel really came up at his latest comp and had a sensational day with that 770. And that was a really close tussle at that stage between a number of lifters who were sort of fighting there. You had like Foreman, you had Darcy, you had Sam there, and there was a lot of like tussling going on for placings. And that was a really cool event. So I think that what we're going to see is a really nice rematch with Sam. Does anyone know about the 755 there, Murdad?
I think I saw him compete at Queensland States, but I'm not sure if Open Powerlifting picked it up or not.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure he was on the podium at Queensland States with Tom Chaplin.
Awesome. So, I mean, like you have a sort of 3-4-way battle there for that next placing, which is going to be really great. And, you know, quality lifters, really strong. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch that unfold as well.
I agree.
Cool. Good luck, 105s.
Good luck, 105s.
Hey.
I need to get these ones done. I got to leave in like 15 minutes. So I might have to rush through these last 4.
Well, let's be concise.
Yeah.
So we got 84.
84.
84. Beautiful. Right. Who handled 84?
I handled the 84s, so I can kick things off. We'll go from third best nominated and work our way up and then acknowledge the others. So in third place, nominated at the bottom. Sorry, Chris. Third highest nominated total is Stella Karanosius. That is a cool last name to say. She nominated with her Queensland States total at 462.5 with a notable 200 kilo deadlift, which would be mad to see her go head to head with our top nominated 84 Beth Parker. Stella's training seems to be going well based on her stories and seems happily posting away, which is a good sign of confidence. But over the last 7 months between Effectus Cup and Queensland States, Stella added a nice 22.5 to her total. So if training momentum remains consistent, we should see her pass north of 470, maybe even nudge 480. Granted, she goes 9 for 9, just like Queensland States. And then our second highest nominated is Nicola Orr with a nominated total of 465, just 2.5 more than Stella, which is mad because we love to see some battles, don't we, fellas? Nicola competes out of Tasmania. And over the last few months between September and November in 2023, she's added a monstrous 40 kilos to her total. I haven't been able to find her Instagram to properly scout, but granted the fact that her squat has pretty much been linear, we could probably expect to see her put her best performance up at Open Nationals. Granted, she goes 9 for 9, as she only averages 6 for 7 for 9 in her last few competitions.
Awesome.
And then Beth Parker is competing at her second ever Open National Championship, yet probably being the most experienced lifter across the entire weekend after doing her first comp in 2015. Shout out to Lift Performance Centre in Redfern. And then Beth is looking to win her first ever Open National title. Beth nominates with a 481.5 total. However, in her most recent competition, she totaled 500 at New South Wales States. And before that, she totaled a massive 530 in the same year of 2023. So given her nominated total, I believe she'll no doubt put 481 in the bin. Since her last competition, she has benched a notable 130, which is 10 kilos above her competition best. So a handy 10 kilos on her total will help her perform well on the day. And then this morning, she actually deadlifted 210, which we all probably saw, which is 2.5 kilos below her best. She didn't use talc, but no doubt if she does on comp day, she will probably move it quicker, plus a little more with the taper. And then her squat has been okay for her standards. She squatted 170 last week from memory, but I'm sure we'll see Beth at Worlds hopefully this year at her first ever open performance. So looking forward to that.
The only one that I wanted to highlight was Adjoa, who's nominated 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I just know her training a bit because Steph coaches her. I know she squatted 162 and pulled 2 in prep, which is going to boost her up into that conversation for the podium. So I think I'm very interested to see how that plays out because they weren't maximal lifts either. So I'll be interested to see if there's a bit of a conversation there for her coming in.
And Rebecca Tanchevsky, she actually was the world representative last year for
former,
us. And she won 2022 APU Nats. So there's a bit of experience in tight competition there from her.
Sensational.
I know for sure she went 9 for 9 that day. So, we could perhaps see a little bit of a shake-up here in the nominations. I can't see anyone catching Beth.
Yep.
I hope Beth puts up a total over 500 again. We'll see how that goes pending her squat.
Yep.
The bench and deadlift look right on her best, but it seems like... What was the injury that she had?
Recently?
Yeah, she
Good
had
question.
some lower body injury, which seems to only be affecting her squat.
I think it was a knee thing from memory, actually.
So hopefully she performs well. I still can't see anyone catching her, even if she, doesn't get her squat close to what it was. And it'll be a nice battle for second and third between sort of 4 lifters, which is really cool.
Yeah, very exciting weight class, as we've been saying the whole time. So, yeah, good luck to the 84s.
So moving on to the 120s.
120s.
So 120s, the tugboats of the weight class. Looking forward to seeing Sam Butterworth go above and beyond what he's been doing in his previous competitions. He has a tight battle with Josh Lanivia, the Tonganator, the Schlonganator. Very keen to see him battle out with Sam because his training's been going fantastic. I'm pretty sure I saw him hit a 305 squat single, benches. I think he did 4x2 at 6x2 at 190.
He did 210.
Yeah, he hit 210 for a single.
But
and
yeah,
his deadlift at 320.
I think he's hit 212 or 215
He
prior to that.
He has hit 212 and a half before.
Yeah.
Yep.
So looking forward to seeing the best happen with Josh Lanivia on the day and obviously push Sam as far as he can. Obviously, Sam has the pull advantage, so it'd be nice to be him in the final attempts leading into the closing day.
Who's Charles?
Charles is a fucking joker. That's who Charles is.
You got anything to say about Charles?
So I want to talk about the first two first.
Yep.
So
Righto.
I think we'll see a sizable lead from Josh after subtotal, probably around 20 kilos, which will make things hard for Sam, but I think Sam will have it in him if he has a good deadlift day. I do think Sam will win, but I do think it's going to be very close, and I do think it will come down to the final lift.
Yep. We got to remember
I think
that.
I think that Josh is on the improve rapidly, which is great, and he's very close to Sam. But I think this is the last time where he'll be just a little bit behind. I think the next time they do battle at next year's nationals, they're going to be neck and neck, and it's going to be even better, which I'm really looking forward to. Two great dudes, two guys I really like watching lift. I'm really excited to watch this session.
Yep.
I do think, like I said, I do think Sam will have a little bit too much at the end, but it will be nice to see them both put up a really good performance, and hopefully Josh has a really great day and pushes Sam as far as he can, and makes Sam pull something really big like 355. Would be awesome to have to pull that for the win. And then there's kind of three dudes here next who could be on the podium. We got Hugh, who's my lifter. We got Will from ACT, and we got Charles, who's also my lifter. Haven't seen much of Will's training, but he is kind of a squat specialist. He's missed a couple attempts at 300 on squat, so he'll probably be aiming for around there again. Hopefully he's successful and he's able to kind of get off to a really good start on squat and make the other guys push him later. We got Hugh, who's 18 years old. I've kind of thrown him into the deep end here. I didn't realize that he actually had a chance at the podium until I was looking at this morning, but his training's been going great. He did 732.5 at sub-junior states last year, and he's probably going to put about 40 on that, would be my guess. So he'll be right up there for third. And then Charles, his best total is 752.5. His last comp, he only did 740 because he only got one deadlift because he's a coward. But that 752.5 was with a 262 squat and a 180 bench. So there's a little bit extra there if he puts together the full day. I can see both Hugh and Charles being somewhere between 770 and 780. And, we'll see if Charles can get beaten by a teenager or not. So, yeah, what I'm hoping is that Will has a really good day and he pushes my boys as far as he can. And then we'll see what happens at the end. But it's really cool, again, to have three guys pushing for that final podium spot.
Yeah, definitely. A good sort of primary fight or battle, and then sort of that secondary battle for third is always great.
Yeah.
I think
it's a lot more meaningful when that secondary battle is for a medal as opposed to like, oh, we're battling it out for fourth, we're battling it out for fifth. So this will be a really fun one to watch as well.
Yep.
I think first place is actually a lot closer than what we think because I know Sam has obviously gotten better since he's been part of TSG, but Josh's training has just been like above and beyond. Like as we said, 305, 210 in his training, and he missed 337 after what looked like he could have hit.
Was not close.
Was not close.
I've heard several people tell me that 337 was almost there. It was a misgroove. It wasn't close.
I agree. Yeah,
it was probably 10 kilos too heavy, maybe 12 kilos too heavy. I think Josh will put up something like 840 or 845.
Yep.
But Sam's already done 845. He's been in the 830 plus range for a while now.
Yeah.
I think he's just a little bit too strong for Josh just yet. But like I said, I think this will be the last time where there's actually a bit of a gap. And next time they do battle, it will be like really, really, really
That's
close.
the thing. I think like if you give him all the credit that you're giving him there, Potsy, which is due because his training has been phenomenal and he's moving, you're still talking about 25 kilo gap if Sam just does what he's already done.
Exactly, yeah.
So it is a big ask. Again, we've already recognized that we're talking about great days, 9 for 9, both of them. The odds that'll happen, it won't.
Yeah, if Sam misses a squat, it's fucking on. It's 100% on.
That's right. And so I guess that's the thing is like what's going to happen on the day we can't speak to. So we're just kind of giving our best insights based on what's in front of us. And look, we'd like to see it be as close as possible, but the likely scenario is like what you've laid out, that it won't be quite as close as, true battle. But that if something happens, that could quickly change. That landscape would quickly change.
Yeah. If Sam is a little bit overzealous and he misses a squat and it's a 12 kilo jump or 15 kilo jump, he's giving up that much on his total, then yeah, absolutely it could end up with Josh winning. But if they both have good days, and I actually expect that they both have good days, two really good competitors, two guys who have great coaches in their corner who pick good attempts. So I expect that they both have really good days, and I think Sam's good day is just a little bit better than Josh's good day.
FYI, the last 6 comps, Sam's missed 1 squat.
There you go.
So the odds are in his favor.
Yeah. And even then, even his last 6 comps, he's missed a squat. Did you say? One squat? Or one total?
Like one attempt.
Missed one attempt.
Well, in every comp.
No, one attempt across the last 6 comps on squat.
That's
Yeah.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. Yeah, absolutely. So of 18 squats, he's missed one.
And I'm pretty sure that was the one at Worlds where he actually hurt himself on his second attempt.
Nah, it was nuts.
Nationals.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Nationals 2022, missed 305.
There you
So
go.
yeah, I mean, he's obviously someone who adjusts well for the day, which is like bad news for Josh, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see Josh win, but I think this is another case of Josh is pushing Sam to be even better.
Yep.
And Sam's 8:45. He didn't have someone coming to get him. Now he really does. So it forces things up a notch.
it's hectic.
Puts more fuel on the fire.
Absolutely. And the other thing is, you're talking about Josh's training. Let's talk about Sam's training just for a second before we move on to the next weight class. Sam's training looks as consistent and as clean as it's ever looked.
Mm-hmm.
And he is training in a way that does look like it's bringing him consistency in his performances. So if at any time you would expect consistency from him, it would be at this next comp. And he's already shown great consistency, like I just showed with the squat, which isn't his like premier lift, so to speak. So yeah, tending to agree there. Odds very much in Sam's favor. He would have to make a mistake to open the door for Josh to do
And
something.
I spoke to Sam briefly at Junior States. He was here coaching, and he said that the new training style is a little bit more predictable because he doesn't hit his heaviest lifts until the platform.
Yep.
So he always feels fresh. Whereas the previous training style, he was hitting huge numbers in training, and then that would bring a lot of fatigue, and then it was almost like a wait and hope and pray and let's see what happens on the day. Whereas now it's kind of like, okay, I did this last week, had a bit of room, like let's see. And it's a bit more predictable, and he seems to be really comfortable in it, which is
I've
really
noticed that
important.
as well. I've noticed that.
So
for
that's
sure.
really cool. All right, moving on. Good luck 120s.
Good luck to 120s.
84 plus. Who wants to take this one?
Who?
I don't know. It's probably me.
Yep.
We have 2 Islanders who are fucking unbelievable.
They're the best.
And this is actually pretty similar to the Sam and Josh thing. Probably a little bit more of a gap still here, where Lucy's really closing in on Nat at quite a fast rate. I still expect Nat to be better than Lucy, but these 2 women are, it's really nice to see the standards be so high in this weight class when it's usually, not a lot of participation. We've actually got 8 lifters here, which is a lot more than we would usually have in a super heavyweight female class. So that's really exciting. I'm really excited to watch Natalie lift. She is currently the holder of the biggest deadlift in IPF history.
So sick.
She was the first female to deadlift 272.5 drug tested, 600 pounds. She squatted 250. She's fucking strong.
600 freedom
She did
units.
252 last week.
In competition, but yeah, she's squatted. She's improving.
In
She's,
training, yeah. 2.
Yeah,
she's
she
still reasonably new as well, which means she's still got a lot of room to grow. She's awesome, and she's actually probably along with Vicky and who was the guy?
Shay.
Who was the guy that we mentioned who could be on the podium at Worlds?
Oh, fucking Dion. Dijon Mustard.
Along with Vicky, Dion, and Steve, Nat's probably another one of those who can get on the podium at Worlds based on the way that she's progressing. So really excited to watch her lift, particularly to watch her deadlift. We've got Luciane Lafayette.
Good job.
Is that correct?
I'm going to give it a tick.
I think like a lot of these names are very phonetic, so you just got to read it out. So her best total is 592.5, which is not really a reflection of how strong she is because, like I said before, she's making crazy
What did she
progress.
squat in training recently? Was it like 235 or 240 or something?
Yeah, something bonkers.
Yeah,
She benched 140 in training.
Yeah. Yeah, wow.
She's
going to close that gap a bit.
She's making rapid progress. She's going to close that gap. She's going to go over 600, which is really awesome. So yeah, I'm really excited to watch these 2 lift. And we've got a little bit of a battle for third place between Rebecca and Jarvi. Rebecca nominated with 495, Jarvi nominated with 510. So it will be interesting to see those 2 battle it out for the bronze.
Yeah, absolutely. And then even further down, we got another little battle going on for the next placing. So it should be a really fun class to watch, just like every class we've been saying that. So that's really cool.
Yeah, this one's gonna be really fun.
Yep.
I'm more excited for the battle between Lucy and Nat in 2 years, because I think just the way that Lucy's progressing. Nat's obviously still progressing, but she's closing that gap faster. She's progressing faster.
Yep.
It's going to be one to watch for sure.
Yeah.
which is really awesome.
Good luck 84 plus.
Good luck 84 plus. And the final weight class, we only got one 120 plus.
That's so shit.
That's pretty disappointing.
Yeah.
Where are all the big boys at?
Yeah.
Should I just get
I've
Hugh?
got
Should
two
I get
of them at
Hugh?
my gym, but
Should I get Hugh to change classes and just go up so
Yeah, do
we
it.
can get a token medal?
yeah. But credit where it's due. 900 was his total.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's not like it's just like,
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
not.
you know
It's
what I
not
mean?
only
Like,
one.
It's,
Yeah.
it's not a free
it's like
ticket.
that guy.
It's not
you
like
know?
it's Chris.
Yeah.
He's so mad. So yeah, Jackson Stubblefield, he's our 120 plus at nationals. Best total 900, best lifts 350, 210, 340, all done in the same competition at Queensland
It's
States.
not the
just
fourth
recent.
or fifth Aussie 900.
Tested. I think it's the first ever tested.
No.
No?
No.
There was
Tony Rymouth.
No, he
Tony
did
Rymouth's done it.
875, I think. Tony.
No, but there was a post or something. It was like a very small number of lifters who've hit 900.
I think
in
it's.
Australia
I think I'm pretty sure Krisner did it. I'm pretty sure Tony Rymouth did it.
tested, yeah, and slaved,
And then
yeah.
I'm pretty sure this is the third.
third. Wow,
Because I know Cam never did
don't
900.
quote us.
Oh shit.
It's one
Cam-
of them.
Cam did 888.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, Tyrone Senatuli.
So he's one of a handful.
Tyrone
Bring
Senatuli did.
Tyrone back, man.
I think
He's-
Tyrone Senatuli did. I'm pretty sure Jackson's fourth.
He's one of a handful. I think he's fourth. Yeah.
yeah.
So he's really strong lifter. And it's actually cool. I was thinking about this before. When you don't have any competition, it's almost just like a mock meet. It's just like a
Yep.
fun day. So we can see what he's really capable of here. Maybe he can do 930 or 940.
He's
if
the Tony
if he
Cliff
has a
of
great
Australia.
day, which is really cool. And yeah, I'm excited to see him continue progressing onwards to 1,000.
Yep. Hopefully. Well,
Yeah.
considering the 120 plus, that's fine. I was thinking about Dennis Cornelius for a second, but wrong weight class.
Yeah, wrong way class. He's a long way away from Jesus,
How
unfortunately.
heavy is Jackson out of curiosity? 148. Cool.
Do you have anything to say on Jackson or?
Sensational.
Yeah.
Just put on a show, mate, because it'll be Sunday night. And we'll be ready to pack her up
Pack her up,
afterwards.
yeah.
It's always fun watching huge squats. I think
Oh, dude.
there's nothing more fun than a more like kind of exciting
Thrilling.
than
Yeah.
thrilling and like
What are you
almost
talking
like
about?
you're
Bench
almost
is
like
heaps fun, man. What do
you're
you
almost
mean?
nervous and it's almost like watching a car crash sometimes. Just like everyone stops to look.
Yeah, legit.
There's obviously nothing more exciting than a final deadlift for the win. Like that's obviously the
Especially
pinnacle.
like a car crash when
But-
they miss.
But the squat is like when someone does a really heavy squat, like 350, 360, like
Yeah.
everyone who's in the building is like,
It's
holy shit,
awe-inspiring.
they're putting that
yeah.
weight on the back,
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
unracking it themselves, they're walking it out.
Yeah,
They're,
it's phenomenal.
Jackson, I
squatting to
dare
IPF
you to
depth.
bend my bar.
so yeah, really excited to watch him.
Yep.
And so before we go, predictions on best female lifter, I'm going to go with Vicky.
I would agree. with
Yeah.
Probably pretty
that,
hard
Vicky.
to beat
Yeah.
Vicky.
Yep.
I think
Second, Shay.
Shay and Natalie, I think will be
Natalie third.
second and third. Maybe, yeah, that's probably it. Maybe Brittany Romus. She's looking really good.
Yep.
She might sneak on there as well.
Yep.
Best lifter male, I think Stephen
Steve.
will be one.
Stephen, yep.
And I think whoever wins the 105s will be two. And I think whoever comes second in the 105s will be three.
Wait, what'd you say? Who
What
would
about
come-
83s?
Oh, sorry, I forgot about the 83s.
Yeah.
Yeah, 83 should be around like 104, 103.
So Aiden Potts second.
Yeah, let's go. Sorry, mate. I was just scratching my balls. Oh, sorry.
All right, that's got to go in.
You can clip that, can't
That's
you?
got to be the intro.
You know, my media guy has a
All
big
right,
job.
we've been here for fucking ages. It's time to go home. All right, thanks everyone for listening. Make sure you tune in on the 8th of March. Is that correct? Is that the
8th
first
of
day?
March, 9th
8th
of
of
March,
March.
10th of March.
8th of
A
March,
mad live stream
9th of
going.
March, 10th of March.
Well, come on down.
APA YouTube.
Well, come
Make
on
it
down.
to
Walls
Newcastle.
and diggers.
Walls and Diggers. We'll have more information out on the Instagram page of the APA very soon about what time everything's starting.
Yep.
But yeah, it's going to be a really good nationals, and we'll see you all there.
Yeah, and if we offended anyone, prove us wrong.
Prove me wrong. Call me out.
See ya.
Yep.
Ciao.